Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Failed Award Contenders Season 3, Episode 2, here on the Waffle Press Retrospective. We're here to talk about The Truman Show. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
That's me.
Matt, well, I don't have a funny opening for this episode.
Yeah, I don't have any plan to derail it either. I don't know.
Yeah, it's The Truman Show. I don't think there's people in our age demographic that haven't heard about The Truman Show at this point.
Yeah, I would guess so. Although I don't know what... It's where Jim Carrey keeps finding a way to stay relevant, but in weird ways, you know?
No joke. We're recording this the day after the Super Bowl. Sonic 3 or whatever, or the Knuckles show they're promoting now. The commercial comes out, and my cousin-in-law, who I'm really tight with, shout out Rudy, he was like, hey, I saw those movies with our other nephew, and it's like, they're not like bad, like, and Jim Carrey's like really fun in them, and I was like, yeah, Jim Carrey, yeah, like everyone still gets excited about Jim Carrey for the most part. Maybe not everyone he's worked with, for example, but like he still has like a cultural like cachet, which I find very interesting because it's like, besides the Sonic movies, which people like him in, I don't know what else he's been in that's very good recently.
Yeah, well, he keeps threatening to retire. Like,
maybe that's saying, it.
What was that?
Maybe that's it. People are like, no, don't go. Like make them miss you a little bit, so you never have to leave.
But he did go to television for a little bit. Like he what the fuck? He has a wrongful death lawsuit against him.
Wait, what?
I did not know this. I guess all right, not to be a bummer, but I guess he had a girlfriend who Jesus.
Is this gonna get like really heavy really fast? I'm not gonna stop you, but
yeah, I'm trying to. It's a weird story. I did not know this. Let me read it real quick.
Yeah, no. This is something to get right.
Yeah, just kill the dead air part of it. So he had a former girlfriend. She was still married, but dating Carrie when she died in 2015. In 2016, her husband filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Carrie, claiming he used his immense wealth and celebrity status to illegally obtain and distribute prescription drugs involved in White's death. That's the girlfriend's name. Carrie released a statement. Carrie released a weird statement. He said, I will not tolerate this heartless attempt to exploit me or the woman I loved. Kat's troubles were born long before I met her, and sadly her tragic end was beyond anyone's control. I really hope that someday soon people will stop trying to profit from this and let her rest in peace. Then her mother also filed a wrongful death suit against Carrie. Jesus, this is pretty brutal. But all right, there was a lawsuit that he also might have given her like a sexually transmitted infection of hepatitis, herpes, and chlamydia. And the mother's statements was, these documents show that Jim Carrey has lied to the media, the public, and the court. Carrey has now been shown for what he is, a dishonest Hollywood celebrity who thinks he can say anything and fool people just because he is famous. That was in 2016. And then in 2018, January, the lawsuits were dismissed. And attorneys for both sides confirmed there would be no further legal proceedings. So that sounds like a mess. I don't know what any of that is. But that could be affecting where his career is at these days.
Yeah, maybe.
Allegedly, he's a guy who, in recent years, has basically lost touch with reality. From what you hear about him, Yeah, it looks like it's weird. It looks like he does Dark Crimes in 2016, which is one of those like I think an early Netflix movie,
Hmm.
where it was trying to be like another dark character. He did that in The Bad Batch, um, a movie I defend.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I
as
was
in like
excited
it's
for that one. I will not
yeah.
defend it now.
It was a I think it is okay.
Oh,
Like
okay.
that's my take. It's not me being like genius masterpiece,
No.
but yeah, he's a weird guy. Because remember, all right, so there was also that moment with him where he was Kick-Ass 2 was coming out, remember? And then there was like another shooting, and then he made that statement where he was like, I don't want to be in violent movies anymore. I think they encourage like violence. You remember
Hmm.
this?
Yeah, I
It was like
do
a big
remember
deal when that
that.
happened. And it was like before the movie was even out, and like some people blame him for like that movie's weaker box office.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think
Because
that's the
he
case.
well, yeah, I think we all kind of woke the fuck up and was like, Kick Ass actually wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But
Apologies to the Matthew Vaughn heads.
yeah, um, but yeah, he's had a weird, and yeah, he does Dark Crimes Bad Batch 2016. Those allegations come out, and then they get the court case gets dismissed in 2018. He he does that show Kidding that was on, I believe, Showtime. It was only like 20 episodes. Do you remember this? Where
No.
he was like a children's television show guy. Um, I think it was him trying to like have a like kind of tragic comedy type thing. Um, and I remember I've never seen it, but people have told me it's all right. And then that ends, and then he's just been Dr. Robotnik for
That is
the
fucking
past
crazy.
four
We should
years. Like,
also mention his very open stance for a while about uh being against vaccines.
yes, he was very anti-vax, which is like that was kind of the moment where like when I'm a teenager where I totally get off the Jim Carrey train. Like as that was like I've always been kind of iffy about the vaccine issue. It's only worse now.
Hmm.
And that was because he was dating Jenny McCarthy for the longest time, who is like one of the most vocal anti-vaxxers on the planet, or at least was. I don't know if any of these people have changed their minds, you know? Like it
Yeah.
feels like a lot of the people that used to talk about it don't talk about it anymore. Now it has become like a really big conspiracy thing. Although we did just have the Super Bowl just had advertisement for Kennedy running it as an independent.
Yeah,
Um,
which is like one of the most psychotic promotional materials
I
like I've
yeah,
seen
that
in a
was
minute.
this was the grimmest Super Bowl I think I've ever watched.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
in
not
terms of
just
like
because of an ongoing genocide against
yeah,
Palestinians, which is a big part of it as well. Maybe
I was
don't
not
do that.
I was not going to bring that up because I felt like this was already a dark enough
Yeah,
episode.
I
But
know.
thanks,
We're
Diego.
I'm saying
I just
we're just digging deeper today.
I just meant in terms of just how bad all the advertisements were, including ads for Jesus and for Israel.
Well, no, Jesus loves feet. That's what we discovered.
That here's one thing: were all those images AI generated?
They had to have been
They looked AI generated,
that
like
one,
and
and then the other one with the paintings and their mouths moving. Like
yeah,
that one had to be right.
I don't know. That could have been like an animated thing, but like that probably didn't take that long. Like I feel
Hmm.
like someone's hands had to have been working a little bit.
I mean, I hope you're
Whereas,
right, but that was the first thing I thought of.
yeah, well, just look, it was a bad commercial. But like, what was weird about the Jesus one is that it's like that's a very he gets us supports a lot of homophobic causes in this
Hmm.
country, and that commercial felt like it was going out of its way to be like we're pro same sex couples. Did you pick up on that? Like that's what threw me about it. Like
No,
all the
I
couples,
didn't.
all there were a lot of couplings in it that were like men and men and women and women. Now they weren't like kissing or anything, and there was nothing overt, but it felt like they were trying to trick people. And which is there's something kind of hysterical about trying to trick people into following Jesus. But yeah, what a weird it was a weird Super Bowl, man.
Yeah,
Um,
not a single good commercial.
yeah, not one. I mean, I missed the planet. I missed the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes one though. Like I
Oh,
started
that
watching a
that
little late.
was fun. That full
Yeah,
trailer looks good, and Twisters
and
made
then
me laugh really hard.
The fact that it's called Twisters is hysterical.
Yeah.
Because the first movie had multiple Twisters.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a like, oh shit, now there's more of them. It's just like they just didn't want to put the effort into the title. Like,
Yeah. But you know what? I will say better than Twister 2 or like Twister like subtitle something Resurgence. You know?
There's no reason to do another Twister.
No,
like,
there isn't.
Really,
but here, there's two separate reactions to that trailer. One, again, shout out to Rudy. He was like, why the fuck are they doing that? Like, why are they making a sequel to Twister? Like, yeah, I agree. And the other side of that is they named it Twisters so they don't have to tell people there's the movie called Twister that was released in the 90s. And you could just pass it off as like a seemingly new project that was easier to greenlight and to get everyone paid. That's it.
It's just crazy. That's a crazy project to exist.
It is. Shout out to Lee Isaac Chung. Get that paycheck, King. His first movie was Minari.
The only thing that kind of looked interesting was Shogun, which is a TV show.
Which is a remake.
Oh, is it?
It is. You didn't watch Shogun in high school?
No.
Oh, I did.
What the fuck is Shogun? Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, the Richard Chamberlain thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I know of it. I've never seen it.
Okay.
Is it good?
I remember it being good. I haven't seen it in like 15 years, so it's just, you know that. If someone watches it and it's like horribly racist or something, my bad.
Why were you watching that in school?
I took Japanese in high school.
Oh, all right. Right on. Do you know any Japanese?
Well, I got these notebooks with the stuff I used to know.
Right.
That's the fancy way of saying no. I don't know any off the top of my head.
I've been using Duolingo lately for Japanese, just to have something to do with my brain, and so I might know more Japanese than you at this point. Although to be fair, I took 4 years of French, and I don't know a fucking word of French anymore. Je m'appelle Matt. I think that's I am Matt.
Yes. Which, shout out to Anna Sawai, who was also in Fast 9 and Monarch, that Apple TV show in the Godzilla universe. I'm not saying the full title because it's too ridiculous, but it was worth a watch. There you go. None of this is about the Truman Show. I swear to God, we're gonna pivot back in a second.
No, we like talking about things.
Yeah.
I'm still fascinated with the Jim Carrey kind of rise and sort of fall. Because I feel like the Sonic the Hedgehog movies don't really need him as Robotnik, you know. Like
they're not incompetent movies, but it's like he does. I think bring something to them that gets a lot of people's attention.
Does he?
A lot of people really like him in them. I'm not even saying he's doing like a particularly like great like work in those, but people like him in them a lot. Because
he's not the one I come out of that movie thinking about, you know.
Yeah, it's Ben Schwartz, obviously.
It really is. They kind of struck gold with Ben Schwartz as Sonic. Like, he's great at it. I wish those movies were fucking better. Like, yeah. Because maybe they'll finally get it with the third one. All right, how much money are they throwing at Keanu Reeves to voice Shadow the Hedgehog?
Is he doing it?
No, like that's just they haven't announced who's going to be Shadow. Even though the movie comes out at the end of the year, but I have to imagine that they're trying to get Keanu for it.
Oh yeah. I think that was the number one fan casting after Sonic 2. Yeah, that's probably like a $10 million contract or something.
Yeah, I mean they could afford it at this point. They're doing well.
Yeah. When you brought up the Keanu Reeves thing, this is why I'm such a fucking loser. The Sonic Adventure Battle 2 theme started playing in my head. That was it. It's just I have very fond memories of losing hours and hours of my life to that game.
I've never played Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh no!
I played a lot of Sonic Adventure 1 though.
Yeah, I could not tell you if it holds up, but I remember having the fucking time of my life.
I remember not knowing what the fuck was going on, but I was also like 5, you know? Like, I was still getting used to video games. and we were also in the beginning of the 3D era where shit didn't make any goddamn sense.
Oh, yeah.
My mom's fucking boyfriend at the time had a Dreamcast and had he had Sonic and Soul Calibur and fucking a bunch of other games on it. And is there a bigger red flag than being a day one Dreamcast owner?
I have no idea.
So I wish I should have stolen that fucking thing.
Wait, hold on. We should clarify. So we did just bring up like anti-vaxxers. So I'm gonna go with that being a bigger red flag. But Dreamcast owner, day one owner, that's right behind anti-vaxxers.
I remember here's how crazy we kind of anti-vax was not to be I'm gonna think, but anti-vax was one of those things I've been banging the drum about since I was in high school because I saw that as a problem, that it was a growing issue because it kept getting bigger. When I was in high school, I missed a lot of school because I was sick, and I had tutors, and I got into an argument with one of my tutors over vaccines because she thought they were dangerous. And I was like, there's nothing in a vaccine that can do any of the things you're saying. And they're like, yeah, but I know I have a friend of a friend of a friend who said that they got a vaccine and then the next day they were autistic. And I'm like, that's not how autism works. And I'm just like, and also the reason why there's the thing is because autism starts showing its signs around the same time. It's correlation doesn't equal causation, right? And it's,
But I saw all those fake videos of people shaking after getting vaccines.
Do you remember this? This was a story that it went viral back in the day. It was, you know what it was? I think it was when swine flu was happening. Remember when swine flu was almost the next big pandemic?
And
then nothing happened. That. We lived through 3 almost pandemics before the pandemic actually happened. Mm-hmm. There were swine flu was one of them. And there was some lady and she got on the news and she was like, I got the vaccine and now I can't walk. And they would show her, and she would kind of walk she couldn't, she was having muscle spasms. And they brought her on the news, and they did it uncritically. And then this doctor reached out and was like, "Hey, that's not how vaccines work." And so I give the news station credit. They decided, all right, let's look at this, and they followed the woman when they weren't interviewing her, and she walked totally fine. And they caught her on camera being totally fine. And then they ambushed her, and then the moment she realized she was on camera again, she went right back to walking like that. She was faking it in front of the news, and it was a kind of a viral story back in the day. But now that's just mainstream belief, that people think this stuff happens,
Mm-hmm.
And now it's become weird where people are braggadocious about not getting vaccines. It's become a manly thing. Which is crazy to me. It's what happened? That's one I just can't figure out. What happened? Why did that become such a thing? And
I think it's how it was presented to media and through media, because they were able to call out that bullshit, right? But I think the presentation goes a long way, and they figured out a way to present it better. Now there's probably there's only a handful of people that actually believe that, right? They trick the layman's into thinking vaccines are actually dangerous for people. But it's just people trying to make money. There's obviously that incredible H-Bomber guy, dissertation video on this, which I will actually link below because it's become such a relevant part of this discussion now, somehow.
That book that he references should be made into a movie, honestly. The Doctor Who Fooled the World.
Mm-hmm.
Which is about the guy who kind of started the vaccine scare. But vaccine denialism is one of those weird ones where it kind of became a big conspiracy theory on the left as well as the right. It was a bipartisan conspiracy theory.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? It's the woman from Curb Your Enthusiasm is with the Kennedy guy.
Oh, shit.
It's weird. And there's even, do you remember there's a reference to it in Knocked Up? Do you remember this?
I don't remember that. No.
There's a scene in Knocked Up, and it's one of those ones where I'm keeping an eye on Judd Apatow because that's a weird line to throw in this movie. There's a scene in it where Paul Rudd is arguing with his wife Leslie Mann about something, and women won't let dudes have any fun. I think that's the message of that movie. He's like kind of like you're overprotective of our kids, and like he's like listing the things he's been like, don't let them do this because it's that, and he said don't get them vaccinated because there's mercury in the vaccines, which is a big talking point in anti-vaccine circles.
Oh God, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it's such a like if you don't know it, you would miss the line. Like it is such a like 'cause it's in the middle of like a list of other things like don't let them go in the sun without suntan lotion on or something like that, right? Like and I noticed it like the moment it happened. Because first of all, mercury hasn't been in vaccines for like 30 years at this point, but like that was it was such a like that is such an anti-vaccine talking point, and I'm like, how did that end up in a Judd Apatow film? And now I'm like, I'm keeping an eye on fucking Judd Apatow because he's hanging out with like Buddhists and shit like that, like,
and getting really upset about Will Smith.
Well, there's that. Everyone's gonna dunk on him for that forever, but he's weird because he did that documentary about Gary Shandling, and a lot of that is about like Gary Shandling's kind of spiritualism, and it makes me wonder like how much does Apatow believe in kind of woo-woo stuff like that. But yeah, it was interesting. Carrey was one of the more vocal anti-vaccine people for a while, mainly because he was dating Jenny McCarthy, and that was the moment for me when I was like, all right, I think I'm done with Jim Carrey.
I tried to give him like a chance to bounce back, and there was this one interview that kind of went viral. Like it must have been like 7 years ago at this point, on the red carpet. I think it was like an ET interview, and they were asking what he's been up to or whatever. He's like, I am not here. I am not a physical being in this presence or whatever. You could find that one. And people were like, wow, he's really just like left this industry behind. Good for him. And I'm like, what the, do we see the same thing? Like that is a dude who is so caught up in his own fucking ego. Like, to me, it was like clear as day. I was like, that's a strange dude. He's never coming back. Like it's gone.
Yeah.
That was before I learned all this other shit.
Yeah. He's got hold on, I gotta message someone real quick. Okay. Sorry, someone just called me out of the blue, so I had to text them back. But yeah, there's this story. I heard this story. It might be secondhand. It might be apocryphal or something. Where they were shooting some, like there's all these houses in Hollywood. You probably know this more than me, that like no one really lives in. They just use them for like movie shoots or like music video shoots and stuff like that. Like
or porn shoots. It's not a joke.
Yeah, basically. And I guess Jim Carrey was working in one of them on some project. And before he left, he like took a like permanent marker out of his pocket and like wrote his signature on the wall and did like a bit of artwork. So that's the other thing, is he does artwork in his spare time. And he's like, I just gave them a $10 million piece of art for their wall. Like now they can never tear this place down. And it's like, you're insane.
Yeah, like that's not how that works, man.
Yeah, like, and what are you doing? Carrey is something's up with that guy.
I think a lot of things are.
Yeah.
Now,
and it doesn't help the type of characters he has played over the years, right? Like,
right.
But
now I have to ask the big question: is he a good actor? He's a great presence. Is he a good actor, though? I think those are two different things.
He can be a good actor if used correctly. I think the story for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is probably his best performance, is that Gondry would have to do like a few takes that he knew were useless to let Jim Carrey kind of like get some of the energy out of him, and then he would be a little slower, and that would kind of get a better performance. I think it depends on the director he works with and if they know how to use him, but he's not someone who he's never really willed a bad movie into being good, right? Like, if the movie is bad, he's usually bad in it. The sole exception might be the Grinch movie, where it's like his performance kind of is the good thing in the movie. Like, but that
you're
movie
one of
sucks.
those.
Look, that's a weird movie. I cannot defend it as a film. It's bad, right? Like it's objectively bad, but it's one of those where I feel like because he takes himself so seriously, he saw that as his opportunity to be like, this is my, because Boris Karloff was the voice of the Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he saw that as his opportunity to play like a monster in a movie, right? Like it's him being a movie monster.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see him taking advantage of that. And it's oddly, that character is at his speed. He's oddly correct for it. The movie built around him is objectively terrible. Like it's a bad movie.
Yeah, a lot of people in our age demographic, like they really like that movie.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird. Well, it's one of those. I think it's kind of like got that Shrek thing where like it's got that like it's one of like the earliest exposures to like early 2000s cynical humor that our generation got, right? Like of just him being a fucking psycho that whole movie. But it's not like, I'm looking at his filmography now. I mean, there's The Cable Guy, but that's a movie that's kind of just like people didn't want to see evil Jim Carrey, like
yeah.
But he's good in it.
I do kind of like that movie.
Yeah, I like The Cable Guy. Batman Forever, which we have talked about on the show, I think we're both like he has moments in that movie where he's really good, and then other moments that aren't as good.
I don't dislike him in that movie whatsoever.
Okay, I think there's some scenes where I think it's more the writing that lets him down.
Yeah, the writing's a little wonky. To me, the benefit of Batman Forever, you can go back and listen to it, is not the writing. That's not the strength of that movie. I think the strengths are literally everywhere else. I'm not even joking. But the writing is shaggy, to say the least.
You know what? This would be a good time to use the clip we haven't used in a while of the fucking security guard going, "Oh no, it's boiling acid," which is one of my favorite line deliveries. He was terrible in the Series of Unfortunate Events movie. He's a terrible Count Olaf. He got fucking schooled by Neil Patrick Harris of all fucking people.
That's fucking crazy. I remember liking that movie. Okay, I didn't see the Netflix show.
Netflix show is
those
good.
Books were just cripplingly depressing.
Netflix show is good. It gets the exact tone of those books.
Okay.
It is so on the money of just like being like needlessly cruel but also really funny. Like and those movies, you can tell they wanted it to have more of a heart than it did, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's like they're trying that movie is such a mess, and somehow like Meryl Streep and Cedric the Entertainer are in it. Like, it's what a weird that's a movie that just did not. They thought they were making fucking Harry Potter with that movie, and that's not what those books were. That bomb. I mean, technically that's a failed blockbuster because they never got the sequel they wanted. So maybe apparently Gilbert Gottfried has an uncredited cameo in A Series of Unfortunate Events as the Aflac Duck, which that can tell you about how much they misunderstood the material they were working with.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. What is your thoughts on Man on the Moon? The Milos Forman film.
I don't think it's a very good movie.
Oh,
and I love Milos, but that's one of those like impossible to solve problem movies. Like there's some great stuff in it. It's just I don't think it fully comes together, right? And yeah, it's kind of a mess of a movie.
Yeah, I probably like it more than I should. I actually don't know what the cultural standing is on that movie. I just know that's when a lot of people start taking Jim Carrey seriously.
Yeah,
but
there's also like that. I think he's probably that's probably his first serious role, right? Like other than Batman Forever, but he's playing a campy villain in that.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's like the opposite of serious in that movie, and then he does that. He gets scolded by Tommy Lee Jones, and he's like, "Fine, I'll be real."
Well, no, this is But the Truman Show is a year before Man on the Moon.
Oh shit! Never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this
also,
is his best performance, by the way.
But there is a 1-2 punch. I would probably agree. I think there is a 1-2 punch because everyone talks about the trailer for Man on the Moon and how like that was people being like, you can't do an Andy Kaufman movie. That trailer drops and people are like, holy shit, maybe they did it. Like it might have worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it depends on how you feel about that movie, if it works or not. Then there's that unfortunate Jim and Andy documentary, which is like one of the most, I would say, cringe-inducing documentaries ever made of Jim Carrey, like, trying to become Andy Kaufman. It's about. Have you seen that documentary? It's on Netflix.
I've never seen it.
I don't know what the intent was, because I think it's a very unflattering portrait of Jim Carrey and like how he takes himself way too fucking seriously. But it's yeah. That's where Milos only made one other movie after Man on the Moon. That's strange. He was on a run.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace, Milos. Norm Macdonald in Man on the Moon as Michael Richards.
That feels like a trifecta for this podcast.
Yeah, it's the famous Friday show skit where no one knew if it was real or not, where they had a fight live on the air. Do you know about this?
No.
Have you seen Man on the Moon?
Yeah, but like I don't know the actual history behind it.
It's dramatized in Man on the Moon. Is that there was an incident where they're in the middle of a skit. And it looks like Andy Kaufman like is just like not like doing it. Like he's not reading his lines. Like you can tell he's like fucking up the skit. And then Michael Richards walks off set, grabs cue cards and throws them at Andy Kaufman, and then they get into a physical altercation. And it looks like a real fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like later it came out like the whole thing was staged, right? And like you can kind of like there is a bit later where it's like, like Fridays was basically like Saturday Night Live. So like when it came to the end of the show, when everyone was saying goodnight, you can still see Michael Richards and Kaufman fighting in the background. And like that should have been the tell that it was fake, but a lot of people thought it was real because that was the thing with Kaufman. Yeah. That you couldn't tell if it was real or not. Andy Kaufman, to bring back to the vaccine things, probably died because he believed in alternative medicine.
Oh.
He tried to cure himself with like crystals and shit like that. And
I get the astrology stuff. Not that I believe it. I get it though. I don't get the crystal thing at all. Not to shit on people that might be listening to this podcast.
No, absolutely shit on you because it's dumb. If you have cancer, go to the doctor.
Oh yes, please.
Look, there are two things can simultaneously be true. The healthcare system in the United States is a nightmare and exploitative, and they will not help you unless you really work hard for them to make them help you. That can be true. It can also be true that woo-woo crystals don't do shit. So, like, I get people's skepticism with the as someone who has gone through the ringer multiple times in his life. I totally get where that skepticism comes from. It does not mean you can heal yourself with crystals or with the position of the planets or by eating raw foods. That's not how it works. But hey.
If you want to see a fun Andy Kaufman thing, look up his interview on Orson Welles' show.
Oh yeah. Where it's like one of the few times Orson clearly has respect for someone.
Yeah.
Which is such an odd thing. But
that is like perfect. That is, I don't know why, but that pairing is just like it fits so wonderfully well.
It fits oddly well. Like it is kind of like
I would have watched like a buddy comedy show about them.
Maybe we should have done Man on the Moon that's a good one to do.
I know. Let's talk about the Truman Show now.
Okay. Well, hold on. Actually, let's go back a little bit more. Talk about Jim Carrey just a little bit longer. All right. So, what is your introduction to like Jim Carrey?
Honestly, it's probably Batman Forever.
It was Batman Forever, really?
It might be, yeah. Like, because my parents loved Jim Carrey, but I couldn't tell you like if I saw anything beforehand that stuck with me that he was like starring in. Like, I don't even watch The Cable Man until I'm like 18, 19.
That comes later for me too, but that was because movie had a bad reputation, right? That it was like kind of like this is a bad movie.
Yeah, and which I only found out about after because in my close personal relationships, that had a very good reputation.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah, like okay, maybe The Mask. Maybe I saw that before Truman Show. I mean, Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then I don't watch Dumb and Dumber until way later, and I'm like, yeah, this is like fine. And then Dumb and Dumber 2 comes out, and I'm like, good lord.
You know, I would argue Dumb and Dumber deserves an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay.
Really?
I think Dumb and Dumber is a perfect screenplay.
Okay. I should give it another shot then?
If the goal of your movie is to showcase two guys who are dumb and dumber, the script for Dumb and Dumber is the perfect way to do it. To get them in every situation you want them to be in, right? If you want to see them down on their luck, if you want to see them interacting with animals, you want to see them falling in love, you want to see them with money, you want to see them without money. The script for that movie hits all those beats without feeling too forced. There's a dumb like kidnap plot, but it doesn't matter. It's just to get those guys into different situations. They commit murder in that movie.
Really quick, I do know what I saw first. It was Liar Liar.
Oh, all right. That's an interesting one to start with.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Liar Liar?
Could not tell you if it holds up. I must have seen that movie like 50 times.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend back in middle school who was like a Jim Carrey obsessive. He was like, Jim Carrey's like my favorite guy. No, you know what? No, he wasn't like, you know, sometimes you look back and like you're like cringe at like. Also, I have no cringe memories of this guy.
Oh,
like,
okay, that's great.
It was just like we would go over and it would be like, what are we watching for the sleepover? And it would be a Jim Carrey movie. Like that was basically just it. Mm-hmm. And we would just kind of talk about how funny we thought Jim Carrey was. And I think I didn't see How the Grinch Stole Christmas first, although I did see that movie in theaters. But I remember when the advertiser for that was going on, and it was like Jim Carrey is the Grinch, and it had that weight to it of like, you know who Jim Carrey is, right? And I'm like, I don't. I'm 6. Like but then it was like, who is Jim Carrey? And I think oddly enough, my first Jim Carrey movie was Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. I saw the second one first because I think that was the one my dad had on VHS. And then it was just like, oh, I should watch everything this guy was in because this guy is clearly a comedic genius. And I remember I never saw it till way later. I remember the poster for Me, Myself, and Irene being in Blockbuster for like years. Like they had a cardboard cutout of that movie, that's the one where he has split personalities, right?
I've actually not seen Me, Myself, and Irene.
It's the other Farley Brothers comedy he did.
Oh, okay. Is that like one of the good ones, or is it like their later stuff?
I don't know. When do the Farleys get bad?
Probably Shallow Hal.
Shallow Hal. So are we gonna say Shallow Hal's a bad movie?
Should I rewatch it? I remember not responding to it.
Well, here's the thing. That movie is that's a really the Farley Brothers thing of like having their cake and eat it too type thing, where it's a movie that is basically just wall-to-wall fat jokes, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, she's so fat, like the canoe goes up in the air, right? Like and the joke is that it's Gwyneth Paltrow who isn't fat, like, but because he's been hypnotized by sexual predator Tony Robbins. Hey, whoa. Because he's been hypnotized by him, he sees everyone's inner beauty, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of Shrek in a weird way. Like it has a Shrek ending where at first he wants to like get the like seeing beautiful women thing back, but then he's like, you know what? No, I accept her for who she is. And it's about a guy kind of getting over that. It's like inner beauty is more important than outer beauty. And there's like weird scenes. Remember they go to like a burn ward, like for like at a children's hospital or something. And he's like, I don't know, those kids look sick. I don't know what anyone's talking about. And then when he goes back, when he's lost the power, it's like he sees the kids with like their, disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there's no way it threads that needle right?
Yeah.
Like I doubt it's a very nuanced and sensitive portrayal of such things. But I remember it was funny when I saw it as a kid, but I feel like then there's Stuck to You. They do the next year. Remember Stuck to You?
Well, actually, we're skipping over the live action work in Osmosis Jones.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't really count. That's a weird movie.
Is it not a
That's the
banger?
one. Well, Osmosis Jones is the one where it was shot as like an R-rated or PG-13 comedy, and then they changed it to a PG movie later.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't help. It made like nothing at the box office. I saw
Yeah.
that in theaters. That was where I
Failed
learned who William
blockbuster.
That was where I learned who William Shatner was. Uh, I was like, Dad, who does the voice of the mayor? And he's like, William Shatner. I'm like, who's William Shatner? And he's like, he did a bunch of TV back in the day. That was all my dad said. He didn't even bother being like he was Captain Kirk. Um, but yeah, that's one of those weird ones. Yeah, they worked with Bill Murray twice then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. But yes, do you remember? Did you see Stuck to You?
Stuck on You, and no, but I remember the trailers for that.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it. That's a weird movie where like Cher plays herself, and
Wait, what?
yeah, it's
Okay.
well, the joke of that movie is that they're conjoined twins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them wants to become a professional Hollywood actor, and the other doesn't. So they're going to Hollywood to try and become actors. And I believe the story is Cher is trying to get out of her contract of like some dumb TV show she's in. So, but like because she's Cher, she can make weird demands. So she demands they hire him, knowing they would have to like try and shoot around the fact that he's a conjoined twin. And for the longest time, it's like they would just like he would always be standing with like a plant next to him or something. Like I remember it being kind of funny. And yeah, it's a weird one. There's a fucking weird ass joke about Cher. I believe Cher is like sleeping with Frankie Muniz in that movie. Like there's a joke about that. Who Frankie Muniz had to have been still a teenager at the time,
Uh-huh.
maybe 18.
Uh-huh.
Like the joke being Cher is sleeping with a younger actor to like boost her profile.
Mm-hmm.
Which was who was that? Who was the woman who was dating Ashton Kutcher for a little bit? Because it was a play on that. Demi Moore. Remember he was with Demi Moore for a minute?
No, I don't.
It was like a big deal because like she's so much older than him, and it wasn't like nowadays. It was just kind of like it was an
Oh
excuse to make
shit!
fun
Yeah,
of.
I do. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot about that.
It was a weirdly big deal, and then they got divorced. Sorry, I'm now obsessed with the Farley Brothers, and then they do the Fever Pitch, which is bad.
And then they also remake The Heartbreak Kid.
Yes, which is a disaster.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie.
So like I guess maybe like Stuck to You is the last one. Stuck on You, I mean. But I haven't seen. It feels like those are two movies that maybe are a little insensitive these days.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's probably around there. But I think Fever Pitch is definitely the drop off point. And then the best movie they do afterwards together is the Three Stooges movie. And then it's like, oh, and one of them did Green Book and the other did Champions. Remember Champions?
No.
Now they're both very serious guys.
The hell is Champions?
Champions is the Woody Harrelson movie where he becomes like a basketball coach for, I believe, kids with disabilities or something like that. It's trying to be like a heartwarming type movie. It was the movie that Woody Harrelson was promoting when he was on SNL, and he let slip that he's also an anti-vaxxer.
What a guy.
Man, yeah. A lot of bummer stuff out there about
this
people
is a
that
downer
were huge
episode.
in the 90s. Yeah, it's oddly is. I didn't expect that. But yeah,
Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the opposite thing. I had the opposite where I was into Jim Carrey, and then I found out later that he was the Riddler in a Batman movie. And I was like, are you kidding? I was like, Jim Carrey was the Riddler? Holy shit. And I watched that movie and I was like, I guess that was all right. Like, I was 8 when I watched it. You know, I didn't have strong opinions on things. Um, but this came oddly late. I remember this VHS tape being in Blockbuster, and it had Jim Carrey's name on it. And I would go to my dad and be like, "Is this a good movie?" Because I would do it. I would go to my dad and be like, "Is this one good?" And he'd be like, "I don't know." He's like, "That's not really a comedy." And I'm like, "Well, what is it?" It's like it's about a guy who's like his whole life is a TV show. And I'm like, okay, even though I don't know what that means. And then I just didn't rent it. And then but I always knew of it. It's that poster of him on the building, the side of the building where everyone's watching, like it's Times Square or whatever. Although I think that's a building in Chicago. And like it was that VHS, and it just stuck in my head. And I think I caught it on TV one day, and it was one of those where like I was in that. I think I was in that pocket of like Jim Carrey should only be funny, you know, as like a kid. But so like I didn't love the movie, but it like never left my brain. And then if it was on cable, I would just watch it anytime it was on. Right? Like I just kind of, and it's become one of these movies where like I don't know how I like exactly where I rank it, but I think it's a great movie. What do you think, Diego?
I think this is pretty close to like a masterpiece, if not a straight up masterpiece. I think this is an incredible movie, to the point where I forget if it was on the show or right before we were talking about how this movie. You told me that there was sort of like this reaction to the movie where it felt dated at a certain point, like maybe 10 years ago or something like that. You didn't say that. I'm like kind of asking, like, was it like 10 years ago or so? Maybe people felt it was a little dated. And then now people have kind of swung back around to it. I think I missed the wave on that. I think it's gets more terrific and insightful and more sincere every passing year.
Yeah. Well, I think here's the shift I think happened. Everyone's like, this predicted reality television, which I don't know if I'd go that far, because reality television was already kind of a thing when this was coming out.
It was around,
right?
Yeah. I do think it's a sort of a almost reaction to that and seeing where that's going to go. And I'll talk about the writer in a second. But
yeah, and then we get the early YouTube era where there's vloggers, right? So that is the early part of, we will just watch people live their lives, right? Like we will just watch people be like, hey, I went to the park today. Because like that was what YouTube was back in the day. Like that's all it really was. But I think the difference was it was people kind of just filming themselves. And I think that's what made the Truman Show look a little dated, being like, well, no one would actually want to watch something like this. Like it's like this is like a manufactured show. People want the authenticity of it. And now I think that now that like YouTube has become this space that is dominant in our culture, that now we do live in an era of this sort of manufactured, like the half manufactured, half genuineness that the Truman Show kind of taps into, right? Do you remember the whole like Bon Appetit collapse from like 3 years ago?
No, what's that?
The Bon Appetit was like a series of YouTube channels that like they mainly started about cooking, right? They were supposed to teach you how to cook, like, and how-to videos were back in the day on YouTube. It was like, this is how you cook, Bon Appetit. And it slowly became about the personalities of the people on there, right? Like it became less about the cooking and more about the people. So it was like, all our chefs are going to make something for Thanksgiving dinner tonight. So like they will kind of teach you about making the food, but it's more about them being all friends, right? Like they're all friends and going out to dinner together. And then it came out that like there were people being racist behind the scenes and shit like that. And it was like, oh, they're not actually friends. Like this is all manufactured, which is like, they weren't like hiding it, right? Like I'm not saying they were, but like it led to like a huge swath of their talent just leaving all at once. And it's odd, it's oddly, I mean, not to be on my fucking bullshit, but we did talk about VTubers last time, and I feel like that is another extension of the weird kind of manufactured authenticity thing,
That's what I have in my notes. I was like, kind of feels like we should have saved the VTuber talk for this one, but no, it's appropriate to both.
I think it was appropriate to both, and it's just weird that like we can tend to find these overlaps. But uh, yeah, it's this weird like everyone's friends, and it does make me wonder if like the Truman Show, not to be one of those people where like I'm like this feels grimly relevant, but it's like it does feel like this is something that could happen at some point, that we do just watch someone's life who they don't realize we're watching a TV show,
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually reading. Do you remember this? This was mentioned on the Wikipedia, which is only. Wow. Do you remember the Joe Schmo show?
No.
All right, the Joe Schmo show was kind of this crazy thing that happened. Let me get it up real quick. Joe Schmo show was this. It was a fake reality show. It was essentially the joke was everyone on the show were actors. It was all manufactured except for one guy. One guy was genuine. So one guy thinks he's just competing on a reality television show. Everyone else is actors. All the drama is manufactured. And it's this crazy thing that happened where I can't remember the name of the guy, but they brought him on, and it was going to be like a prank on him, right? Like, and it was one of those like classic like what's that? It's like Real World-esque where like people are all living together, and then you vote people off, right? And whoever is there at the end wins,
Yeah.
And what I guess what happened was early on, someone got voted off the show. The guy's name was Matt Kennedy Gould. And he was the one who like he thought it was a real show. When this person got voted off the show, Matt cried because he really liked the guy and he felt bad. And the producers suddenly realized in the middle of production that Matt was too likable, that they can't humiliate him with this prank for the rest of the show because it will be cruel. So they like mid-production they had to reconfigure the whole show where he ends up they kind of turn him into the hero of the show.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's this weird thing. Also, something crazy about it. Fucking Kristen Wiig is on the first season of the Joe Schmo show.
Oh shit.
It was like one of her early. You would recognize some of these people. Like they've fucking Rickety Cricket's on the show. Like he's one of the fake contestants. It's a lot of like early, like this was their first thing in Hollywood type deal. And there is this genuine moment where in the last episode they have to reveal that they were all actors and fake. And you watch this guy genuinely realize that however long they were filming the show, the whole thing was a lie. And it's kind of brutal. Like it's not funny. Like it's such a weird. They tried to do it again and it never really worked. Like they've tried it twice more and it never really worked the way it did that first time. But it's an interesting show. It's interesting to watch, but if you just want to see something that strange, and it maybe says a lot about the human spirit. I don't know. Like, and then it was also this thing of like, he was cool about it. The guy who was pranked, he was cool about it at the time, and like they interviewed him and stuff. And then like a couple years later, it was like, yeah, Joe Schmo kind of fucked my life up a little bit. Like,
oh no.
he was like, I kind of like, it took me a few years to start trusting people again. Like he was like, It really threw me for a loop.
I could see how that would happen.
But
see, like I was gonna reference Jury Duty, which I've not seen.
Oh
but have
yeah,
you heard of that show?
Yeah. Right? I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I guess semi-similar premise. Like one guy doesn't know what's going on, and then everyone else is like a hired actor, and then there's like big celebrity who is James Marsden here, and then they just do like a fictional jury duty thing, whatever. I don't know how long that could sustain itself. You have to kind of like manufacture chemistry. I don't know. People seem to enjoy it. But I guess that guy, after the show, they're still taking him around to like all like the awards stuff. Cause it's like, yeah, you were the star of that show. It was about his experience living through this. So he got to meet like Jack Black and stuff. And I thought that was funny.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it's just, but it is that thing of like, there is something deeply unethical about reality television.
Yeah.
It is. It's be weird if one of those guys became president.
Oh my god! I could talk about my new obsession. I am not a reality TV guy. Okay, I want to make this clear. I don't look down on it. It's sort of like how I feel about football in the NFL, where I'm like, look, I have no negative feelings about people that enjoy it.
Before you get to your point, can I ask you this? The only reality television show I've really watched to my great shame was The Apprentice. And I can't do a reality television show because I think if you know even a little bit about how TV and movies are made, the artifice of it becomes so obvious. I was just wondering if you had a similar issue. Like,
yes.
Like you can tell
the reactions
how they edit
and stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's so manufactured, and like, maybe I've even had a pal on a reality TV show, and maybe I've even watched it to support them, but maybe I don't particularly buy the general show itself. Like it's just
and it's less about it's not even that they stage things on those shows. It's just like, but if you have that much footage, you can edit people to look however you want, right? Yep. So if this person has to be the villain of the episode, you can edit to make them look like the villain. If they're going to be the hero, you have to make them look like the hero. Like, that's really all it comes down to.
Yeah.
And
so I started watching The Traitors. I think a lot of people started watching The Traitors. You know about this?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, so The Traitors is I don't know how every season goes. I'm on the first season for the UK production, where you get like a group of people, and there are people that are like the innocents. I forget what they call them. I'm sorry. I'm only a couple episodes in, but I'm hooked. And then there's a handful of people that are the traitors, and you have these people stay in a castle. They have to build these relationships, right? And every night, the traitors will deliver a card to the room of one of the other contestants who's not a traitor, and that means that they've been killed. They are no longer on the show, right? Now, the inverse of that is everyone who's not a traitor can kind of get together and try to figure out who is the traitor. So everyone's making allegiances, like where does loyalty lie and stuff like that. And look, I think it's a hoot to watch people like really fuck each other up a little bit. At the end of the day, these people are kind of fucking each other up, like emotionally and psychologically.
Yeah. Is that just? It sounds a lot like Among Us.
It's Among Us. It's werewolf. I'm not the werewolf. I'm not the werewolf. Yeah. I swear. Actually, I'm the werewolf. It's that. It is exactly that.
Here's a pitch for a movie. It's that show, and it's like we have to guess who the werewolf is, but it's just like a premise, but then an actual werewolf ends up on the show.
Why would you just say that? Go write that right now.
I think that's a 5-minute SNL skit. I don't know if that's really a movie.
No, you could do it. Have you seen Werewolves Within?
I did. Yeah, I actually like that movie. That was fun.
I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cute little movie.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. But that's also based on a video game, right? Like,
yeah, it is. But I think it's like a name only thing. Like you kind of just do whatever with it, which is fine. I encourage that. Video games don't have stories. Video games art, please. I'm gonna get like canceled on Twitter, but whatever.
Yeah, Roger Ebert. Fucking
I'm in my Roger Ebert era.
You know what sucks about that is that like Roger was wrong, but like the worst people in the world responded to him. Like,
yeah.
Fucking the one, I think it was the Gears of War guy being like, if only Roger Ebert had lived long enough to see BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, which is just one of the all-timer worst tweets ever.
Yeah, it's just like,
you mean the guy who used to go by Cliffy B had some bad takes that were a little immature or a lot of immature?
Yeah. It was that weird thing of like everyone wanted video games to be treated as art, but no one making video games at the time like knew how to talk about art. Like,
it was just Hideo Kojima, whose work I only know is because of how he talks about the art in the process.
Yeah. But he's also Hideo Kojima is also like insane. Like, he's also like,
which I do fundamentally want my artists to be.
Yeah, but he's very good at marketing himself too, which I'm not even dunking on the guy. But got a new game coming out, right?
Yeah, I think Death Stranding 2.
Oh, okay, so it's just the Death Stranding sequel?
Well, he's got a horror game for Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Finally, we can get whatever Silent Hills was supposed to be.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but that's another guy who's interested in like perspective and like
Mm-hmm.
media and all this metaphysical bullshit.
Well, there were so many guys in that era. Who was there was the fucking there's the Fable guy, Peter Molyneux, who was like famous for just lying. Like that was his gimmick.
Oh, really?
Was that? Well, do you remember him? He would be like when he was hyping Fable, he was like, "I want to make the greatest role playing game of all time. If you plant a tree in Fable, if you plant like a seed, it will grow into a tree. The non-playable characters will fall in love with each other and have families." Like that was how he hyped up Fable
Mm-hmm.
in a game that came out in the year 2004. So I don't know if you know this, Diego, but 2004 was not an era where you could achieve such things.
Yeah.
And he kind of did that with every game, where he'd be like, "I want to make the greatest game of all time. I want it to revolutionize whatever the fuck." And none of them ever really paid off. I don't think he does anything now. I think he's done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Fable was like such a fucking huge hit. You could retire off that, probably.
I've never played Fable.
I remember playing the third one the most, and I remember it being like not very good.
The third one is the one I've heard is like terrible. So like, but and then there's the guy who did what was that game? Oh god, I can't remember it. The fucking the Elliot Page one with Willem Dafoe too.
Oh, Beyond Two Souls or whatever. The fucking David Cage.
Who was like basically he just wanted to turn video games into movies, right? Like he weird guy. Yeah, like that. Those are the people that were kind of driving. Well, so remember there was that debate. It was like, when is the Citizen Kane of video games going to come out, right? Like that was the debate in the early 2000s.
Mm.
And it's like, I think it already happened. It was called Super Metroid. That's the Citizen Kane of video games. Like,
I was gonna say Banjo-Tooie.
Oh boy,
I love Banjo-Tooie.
I do too, but like it feels like we've left that type of video game in the past, you know, like the sort of like 3D collectathon type things.
Yeah, I like them.
So
bring them back.
I do too. People will always shit on like Mario 64, and I'm like, I think Mario 64.
People shit on Mario 64.
You didn't know that?
No, what the fuck is that?
That whole era is still kind of looked at negatively these days, the first 3D era.
That's fucking insane to me. You ungrateful heathens. You fucking losers. You fucking people with your Last of Us and your fucking BioShock Infinites. You nothings. You don't know what you had. This is why every game plays exactly the same now. My God.
Diego taking on the Macaringo role of this episode.
That is such fucking horse shit. I'm not even sorry.
I'm sorry.
Where do these people get off?
It's kind of a common take these days. Like it's that like it took.
Yeah, I'm gonna take their lives.
All right. Well, it's like people were like 2D games were kind of perfected like by the end of the Super Nintendo era, and then everyone just switched to 3D. And I think it's seen as a little bit of a step backwards in some respect, because it was such a new way of playing games, right? Like, I think that's the attitude. I don't know if I necessarily agree. Like, but I mean, it is a thing of like, I have not played. I know that Donkey Kong 64 has a bad reputation these days from basically everyone, like, which is made by the company that made the Banjo games. And it just feels like at some point we were like, we're not going to make those type of games anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like I always think about that with Jak and Daxter. Did you ever play Jak and Daxter?
Oh yeah.
And I think we've talked about Jak and Daxter before, but fuck it, we're doing it again.
Fuck yeah, those games rule. I'm sorry,
but the first one is very much a like collectathon type game where you have to get all the orbs and shit.
Yeah,
like and then the second one it like turns into like a cyberpunk dystopian game. Like
yeah, the shit is so fucking insane.
Yeah, and Jak is suddenly like, yeah, he like talks now. Like
he has a goatee, so you know he's badass.
Yeah. And he has like a furry companion in the like it is so supposed to be a like Banjo Kazooie type game the first time round, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is just like nope, it's completely different now. And I think that marks the shift away from those sorts of games, right?
Mm-hmm.
That and I think you see it. I mean, like Rare was like the golden child of the N64 in terms of a game developer, and then Microsoft buys them and they don't, they never really make a great game again, except for maybe Viva Pinata, right?
I was gonna
Like,
say, yeah, like that's a pretty fun game.
yeah, but like even then, it feels
Very
like that
simple.
was kind of yeah. It's a simple. It's like that's like a farm simulator game, right? Like
Yeah,
basically,
basically. Yeah.
yeah. But like they weren't making the banger hits like they were in the Nintendo era.
No,
It's no
no,
longer
absolutely not.
it's no longer the Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Country or Banjo games that they once were, or GoldenEye. And yeah, I just think a lot of people look back on that N64 era negatively now. Um, I don't know if I agree. That just seems to be the attitude.
God, these
Like,
people.
well, it's like it says a lot. I think that basically since Mario 64, Nintendo has been trying to perfect Mario jumping in 3D in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
That like Super Mario Sunshine is very clearly a response to some people who didn't like the 3D mechanics of Mario 64 because now he has that water pack so he can hover a little bit, right? Like you can kind of like it helps with the platforming in 3D. Then you
Yeah.
have Super Mario Galaxy, which is like you kind of have to like really try to fall down,
Mm-hmm.
like the way the platforms work, the way gravity works in that game is very different. You can kind of just float sometimes. And then now Super Mario Odyssey, which the hat mechanic that kind of helps things, so it makes platforming a little different. Actually, are there any like fail? I don't even think there are any fail states in terms of falling in Super Mario Odyssey. Now that I think about it,
I've
are
not
they
played
making?
Odyssey.
It's pretty good. It's pretty fun if you like Mario games.
I
Uh,
do.
and I haven't played the newest one, Super Mario Wonder or whatever, but
Oh, is that out
uh,
already?
yeah, it's been out for like a year.
What the fuck? Hey, no, I'm so out of touch.
I know because my boy Vox Akuma was playing
Oh,
it.
okay.
But I mean, that's the other thing where people kind of felt like everyone goes like A Link to the Past is like the greatest Zelda game, and now it's like now people are kind of like maybe Breath of the Wild's better, and I think people are like it took until Breath of the Wild for them to get 3D Zelda correct, that like people might be nostalgic for Ocarina of Time, but
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of a step backwards in terms of the game mechanics. I don't know, like that's just what I read. I don't know if I agree with that, like.
Yeah.
But there is that thing of like, for me anyway, where how do you say this? The Super Nintendo, all the franchises that jumped from the Super Nintendo, from the original Nintendo to the Super Nintendo, they're all better on the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like they all took a step up. So I
I
think
will
there is
not
something
stand
to.
here and let you besmirch the perfection of Paper Mario.
I I loved Paper Mario as a kid, man. I rented it
I
from
love it now.
Blockbuster
What the
like four
fuck?
times.
Okay.
I don't own it. I think it's like $100 now if you want to buy a used copy of it.
I still have mine.
Um,
So,
oh boy.
yeah.
Hey
With my
Diego,
Pikachu Nintendo 64.
Diego, you want to make $10?
No, this one I'm keeping. I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I get it. I would hold on to it too.
Yeah. Look, I'm not very
Uh,
sentimental when it comes to objects unless it's like it's from someone
uh,
very special.
mm.
But with that one, I'm like, yeah, I kind of really want to play that game again at some point.
No, I get it. I get it. That was
Uh,
a lot of people's like first RPG. Like the whole like RPG
yeah, I
mechanics of
think it
Paper
might have been
Mario.
mine, which is why I was so bad at it at first.
No, it was one where like it was one of those where like that's when it was like the universe is like you are a nerd
Yeah.
because like I was not great at like the platforming action type games, but the moment I played Paper Mario, I was like I got through it in like 3 weekends, and I was like, oh, this game where I stop and start and strategize, I'm better at this. It's like oh I'm a nerd. Like that's how I play these games.
Look, but like talking
But
about like the shift from the 2D to 3D, it kind of reminds me of like the shift from like the silent era of films to talkies. Like there
no,
were
100%.
conversations
Yeah.
about like, well, you shouldn't need sound to tell your story. You should have the story like in the image itself, which is like, still how a lot of people talk about movies. And I generally agree that like you should have like the blocking and the compositions and the performance should be there. The sound should like accentuate it, but sound can also be like the most important part of a film. So like I'm not downplaying that at all. And this is my segue to eventually talking about the filmmaking in the Truman Show. But first, I think I want to run down a couple people who worked on this movie. Okay, the Truman Show, directed by Peter Weir. Written by Andrew Niccol, obviously starring Jim Carrey. Laura Linney's in this, Noah Emmerich, Natasha McElhone, Holland Taylor, and of course, Ed Harris. What do you think of Ed Harris?
Did you mention Paul Giamatti? This is one of his early
Paul
roles.
Giamatti.
Yes. Soon to be Academy Award winner, possibly.
Yeah.
How things shake out. Ed Harris. He's great in this. I know there's some controversy about his casting in this movie. In that it was originally Dennis Hopper and they fired him like 3 days in or something.
Yeah, I didn't know Dennis Hopper was originally cast until literally like preparing for this episode.
Yeah, Hopper could have done all right, but I think Ed Harris is really good in this. Does he get an Academy Award nomination? Yeah, he got a nomination for it.
Yeah, that's the one worth nominating, I think. Well, no, Ed Harris is terrific, obviously, but like, yeah, it makes sense that you're nominated for something like this.
I think it was a makeup for. I think he wasn't nominated for Apollo 13, and I think it was kind of a makeup nomination for that, you know.
Or The Rock.
Or The Rock.
Yeah. He's great in The Rock.
I mean, well, is Ed Harris ever bad, like, as an actor? Like, I've heard he's a bit of a tough customer.
Yeah, I've also heard that, yes.
But is he ever bad as an actor?
No, I guess not.
Like, what's a bad Ed Harris performance?
Oh, maybe in the Cars spinoff, Planes, Fire and Rescue.
Yeah, but those aren't real movies.
I know. I didn't even know he was in that until I looked at his fucking filmography right now. No, Ed Harris is never like, man, Ed Harris is really like, you know, half-assed in his performance here. It's fucking Ed Harris.
He played John McCain in a TV movie.
Oh, boy.
Game Change, which is about the Sarah Palin thing.
Oh, yeah. Libs really like that movie.
That's a weird movie because it's based on a book, but that book is about, like, it's also about, like, the Sarah Palin stuff in that book is, like, a fraction of it. Most of it is about Obama versus Hillary in the primaries, which is, frankly, a more interesting story. I think we just want John McCain to be the last good Republican in terms of a narrative, right?
Yeah.
Like, and, like, if whatever gets liberals to fucking calm down, I'm fine with it. Like, just... Fine, he's dead. He's not going to bother us anymore. Yeah. John McCain can be the last good Republican. Yeah. He represents the grand old party that used to be. It totally existed. It was totally a real thing. Now shut the fuck up.
It was real. Nancy Pelosi told me so. That's why we should have a strong Republican Party.
We should, yeah. We want both teams to win. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about both the teams winning. You don't want
it
that. It
just happens to be the
China.
People that would vote blue and left are the ones that seem to keep losing no matter what. So it's really weird that they don't do anything to sort of like fix that and maybe inspire their base to come out and vote instead of just scolding them regardless of what their funds are going for. You know.
Well, Diego, we have to remember that China and Russia are sending people to protest our government, which is doing nothing wrong. I mean, when you really look at it, everything's fine. The economy is great, and we aren't.
If the economy is good, then America's doing good. In spite of what Joe Biden tweeted about how if you're tweeting about the economy doing good, you're ignoring the real American people. Which is why 4 years later he's tweeting about how good the economy is. Those tweets are still up.
This guy's a political genius.
Yeah. And then if you notice your base isn't really supporting an ongoing genocide, you got to compare it to 15 9/11s.
Well,
really inspire them to come out and vote for you.
15 9/11s? What's that? Oh, God, I wish I could do math.
I know, I was like, fuck. If we knew how to do math, we would have fucking nailed that bit. But
yeah,
we don't.
That's just team...
Don't try to do it. Let's just move on.
15 9/11s. That's 1,365 9/11s. Clean. It was a clean joke. Going for a smooth landing. Hey, this is relevant. Jim Carrey was Joe Biden on SNL in that time when they were just bringing celebrities on to be everyone in politics.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was like, Jim Carrey must have a great take on Joe Biden. And his take was Joe Biden's kind of a goofy old person.
No, his take was also he gives a thumbs up a lot.
Yeah. But does Joe Biden actually do that?
No.
Yeah, like that's not
He's
Joe
probably
Biden's
done it like
thing.
twice. I don't know where that came from.
Joe Biden's thing is that he like wears sunglasses. Like, which I get, like that's not the funniest thing, but
no, but someone said like Dark Biden or whatever.
Well, yeah, that's that. Well, Dark Brandon is like the meme. On the left side, because like, well, it's that thing of like the Republicans have turned him into such a comically evil person that like, you know, and like this is not me defending Joe Biden. I want to make that very clear. But like it's Joe Biden's actual evil behavior versus like the people who think he's like a communist Satanist coming to end Western democracy or whatever. And it's like his administration keeps kind of dancing around just embracing the idea that the Republicans think he's like part of the New World Order. Like it's a weird neg. Like it's weird. Like because I mean I hate it, but it was funny when they made the tweet about rigging the Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe the timing wasn't the best on that one.
No,
but
currently there is no good timing for anything Joe Biden does. Like,
no, he is just fucking up. But
Joe Biden could come out tomorrow and be like, universal health care, student debt erased. We have cured cancer, which is a thing he promised he would do. Like he could come out and do all of that stuff, and it would still look bad. Like he's in a bad position right now of his own making. But
1,000%. And then I just want to shout out his incredibly like bizarre tweet about like, oh, you know, it should be free if you're carrying your kids with you on an airline. And it's like, I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. And it's like, cool, I guess. Like, yeah, sure, but I don't.
It's like everyone applauds confusingly.
Like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I guess, but like, what about the other stuff you promised and we asked for repeatedly because our lives are ending very soon?
Yeah, it's Joe's an interesting guy, and now he's like,
you called him
dying.
Jim.
Oh, did I? Well,
no, I don't know. I heard Jim. Maybe I just want to hear Jim.
We
Biden.
We are talking about Jim Carrey a little bit, but it's just he might be dying too. Like that's the other thing.
If he makes it to November, I would put money down on him not. That's all I'm saying.
I think he would have a better chance at winning if he was dead.
I agree.
I think we would vote for a dead president instead of any of the other options.
I completely agree. And
who knows? I really
that's just because he's fucking.
On.
He's halfway out the door. You know, like the way he talks. It's like I don't understand what he's saying half the time.
If he runs on a platform of "I will be dead soon," he will win the election.
Yeah. Well, he just did that fucking press conference. I swear to God, we're gonna go back to Truman Show. Yeah. But he just did that press conference like, "Hey, there's nothing wrong with my health," and everyone's like, "Okay, but what about that?" And he was like, "I'll fight you" or whatever. And it's like, well. Everyone who was concerned about his health beforehand is more concerned about it now.
Yeah. But I keep floating this idea. I've talked about this in private with Diego. I'm going to bring it up on this podcast. I keep floating this idea to Diego that Joe Biden might be a political genius. not in no way that I agree with his policies. Like that's a whole different thing. But like part of me wonders if this is all a strategy. Cuz like Joe Biden is one of those guys that should have been out of politics like 40 years ago and he sticks around, right? Like, he's the opposite of Hillary Clinton, you know? Like, who just keeps failing. Like, he's stuck around somehow. Like, there was no reason for him to be fucking Obama's VP, right? Like, there were many better options and somehow he got in. So part of me is like, maybe he's pretending he's dying. Like,
I mean, maybe. And they're like, oh, we just feel bad for Peepaw, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's great. He's the president of the United States. You don't have to feel bad for him anymore.
No, look, we all agree on that, right? But I'm talking about like the average American. Like,
yeah.
It's like, they're like, don't make fun of an old guy. He's old. Like, I wonder if it works, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not, again, this is not us. I don't think it's anyone listening to this podcast, by the way. Like,
welcome, communists.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, it feels, he's like, there's something to him in terms of his staying power in politics. Again, this is not me endorsing him in any way. I'm very much against basically everything he's doing. Like, his only good quality at this point is that he's not Donald Trump. Like, but there's something, I don't know. But who knows? By the time this episode airs, he could drop dead. Like,
I know. That would be kind of like unbelievable. I would laugh very hard.
It would be. I mean, it would be an interesting twist of events, you know. But hey, I wouldn't mind if it happened shortly after the election. Is all I'll say.
Yeah, I don't know. You compare him to, like, you thinking like political genius. I'm just like, yeah, I kind of think he's Mr. Magoo.
No, but Mr. Magoo, we like Mr. Magoo is the thing. Like,
yeah, but that's a fictional character.
I know, but we don't like real people. Like, if we did, we would have done the Truman Show by now. Like, we like manufactured stuff. We like narratives. We like believing things about people that aren't true. Like, if we wanted realism, we wouldn't go to the movies. Like,
maybe.
We do not vote. Look, we do not vote for Joe Biden. I'm talking about like the average person. We do not vote for Joe Biden because of his politics. We vote for him because we like him. Like, that is what happens. People like his character more than Donald Trump's character. Like, that's all it comes down to. Like, and in 2016, people like Trump's character more than Hillary's. Like, and in a sense, I can't disagree. Trump's a more compelling character. Like, it's we attach ourselves so much to narratives more because it makes sense of our lives, which are basically meaningless, and we're in a universe of chaos. Like, we need to attach narratives to things. It's what gives our fucking pointless bullshit of an existence meaning. Why do you think we go to war all the time? Like, war is
people make money from it.
Well, yeah, there's that. But also, war is like very easy to talk about. Like, we measure our history in wars. Like, it's World War II, it's the Cold War, it's Vietnam, it's Iraq. Like, that's how it happens, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that's the thing about the Truman Show, is that like it's supposed to be a real guy's life, but it is just as manufactured as anything else, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it's all. We want that. We want that sort of comfort, and we pretend we don't. We say we want to be challenged, but none of us really do. Like,
but I do think we need to be challenged.
No, 100%. We need to be challenged, and when it happens, it can be better for us. But I think if we say we're seeking out to be challenged, I think we're lying. I think we just end up being challenged by accident, you know?
Mm-hmm. Even if your existence itself is manufactured.
Yeah.
Which is what happens in The Truman Show, the movie we were here to talk about. And I still have stuff to say about it, frankly.
No, yeah, we still have a lot to talk about, actually.
Yeah, I know. I can be here all day, but that's okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about it, Diego, but we have other things to talk about.
It's fine. I don't have anywhere to be yet.
People seem to like our longer episodes, though. Like,
yeah, they tangents. Do. You're welcome.
It seems to be why they listen. So.
Yeah. It's fucking insane how many people have heard us talk about JFK.
I know. Why was that? I think it was because Shannon shared that episode.
Oh,
Shannon, whenever I get a bump in like a tweet, it's because Shannon shares it.
Thank you, Shannon.
So, thanks, Shannon, the Struce. Yeah. So it's although we were kind of tapping into a very conspiratorial minded time, so like maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe that's it.
Deferred to us. But hey.
Yeah. I was breaking down the cast, but I think we got all the heavy hitters out of the way. Shout out, of course, also Philip Baker Hall, who just fucking comes in swinging every time he's on screen.
Philip Baker Hall's great. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Just recently passed, right? He passed like a year or two ago.
2022.
Yeah. So at age 90, he really hung in there. So, and was just one of those guys that just like was in everything. So,
yeah.
And kind of got started late in life. Like he kind of became big in the 90s, you know, like. Was in Boogie Nights.
Although he was in Midnight Run. That's 88. That's never mind.
Yeah. I think that's like when it starts, you know. But for an older guy, and then he just hung in there, man.
Yeah. What do you know about screenwriter Andrew Niccol?
Whatever I looked up the other night, but I've already forgotten it.
Okay. Have you ever seen Gattaca?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he did Gattaca, like which he wrote and directed, which I think is a movie that we all watched in high school biology.
Yeah, but I think I'm the only one in my class who was like, wait, this is like really fucking good.
No, yeah, I liked it. I think honestly, you know, we all kind of dunk on the like movies we were forced to watch in high school, but I think we all like liked them, you know? Like, I think we all like secretly found them compelling, you know? I don't know.
Gattaca failed blockbuster or award contender.
Yeah, we could totally do Gattaca.
Yeah. My take is that it is actually really fucking good, and like I don't even think I'd seen Blade Runner yet. So like that Art Deco infused futurism I had not like seen in a movie before. So for me, I was like, whoa, you know. And it still looks fucking terrific. I would still go to bat for Gattaca. I don't know if you've ever seen The League on FX.
No, I have not.
One of the characters, Rafi, every time he does something intense and has to hype himself up, he would go, Gattaca! And then, like, punch someone or something. And so I think that brought the movie back into, like, the spotlight for, like,
why
drunk alcoholics. I don't know why, but...
Is the joke he's confusing Gattaca with Attica?
Maybe. I don't know. I never finished that show. It kind of falls off, but...
that was one of those where I was like, I don't think I'm going to watch this.
You're all right. Yeah, you're good.
Was the League the show with the actor who lied about being there on 9/11?
Yep. Yep.
Who was that? What was that guy's name?
Steve Rosinski or something? Ranazizi.
Yeah, it feels like that genuinely like ended his career. Like
I think it did. Lot.
Like it's kind of crazy. Like he just kind of confessed to it. Like he just he went on like the Howard Stern show and like told what happened.
Yeah,
that's a crazy one.
Yeah, it is. It's like, look, like don't do that. It's not like the worst thing someone's done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the details were because you ever see that documentary, The Woman Who Wasn't There?
No.
It's actually pretty good. It's about a woman named Tanya Head who lied about being in the World Trade Center on 9/11. And like she's like had like this really harrowing story about her husband being in the first tower that got hit and dying, and her being in the second tower and she was on the floor where the plane hit, you know, and all that stuff. And then it turned out she was like making it all up, and she became like the head of like the 9/11 like World Trade Center survivors network. Like she was in charge of it and like would organize things, and like she got the city to like allow them to tour Ground Zero and stuff like that. She did all this weird stuff and like didn't take any money from them, just like kind of wanted to like be someone who was there, you know. And it's a very interesting look into the sort of desperate need we have to be a part of something, you know.
Yeah.
That even if we weren't, but it's interesting that a guy like that was on a TV show. Yeah, he hasn't done anything. Wow. That's kind of crazy. He was on like one episode of New Girl, one episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and that's it.
Yeah. And sorry, as the New Girl defender, he's not particularly like funny in that episode, so I can't even go to bat for him there. Sorry, guy.
Well, he doesn't. He's not like it's not like he was a memorable presence to begin with. No offense to him.
He could have been a good that guy performer, you know.
It looks like it looks like he's done a little bit more television, but he's doing like one episode things, but he hasn't done anything since 2020. So
Ouch.
But that's interesting. That was a weird one. That was a weird one I remember happening. But and then to bring it back to Andrew Niccol, he did the movie Simone. You ever see Simone?
No. Did we talk about that on the Final Fantasy one?
We might have, because it's kind of like in a similar ballpark.
Yeah, a movie about a virtual star.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of relevant to the VTuber things I keep bringing up, but
yeah.
But yeah,
all of the Andrew Niccol sci-fi stuff, all of this stuff is sort of about like the conjured, like manufactured realities that we create through like either like usually through like a corporation or like some bureaucracy system, which is what Gattaca's about as well. It's like, oh, this person's like built to be genetically perfect, and this person's imperfect, and it's like having to like circumvent institutions and like, you know, being who you want to be through any methods and stuff like that. He does Lord of War also. In Time is also like, I don't know if you've seen it, shot by Roger Deakins, so it looks terrific.
Yeah.
Movie doesn't super work, but I do think it looks great.
Well, that's the famous one where Harlan Ellison like lost his shit over it, saying they ripped him off and was going to sue him and like retracted the lawsuit.
That is also the film In Time that convinces Roger Deakins to go fully digital. He's like, oh, we can do this with the cameras? What the fuck are we doing risking it with film all the time?
Well,
so if you don't like that movie, there's another reason not to like it. And if you like that movie, there's an ultimate reason to like it.
It's actually weird you're looking at his filmography, because like it's the last few movies he's done have kind of been terrible.
Oh yeah, well he does The Host, which is like a Stephanie Meyer thing.
Yeah, the Stephanie Meyer, the other Stephanie Meyer book.
Yeah.
That wasn't Twilight, which I've never read.
I have not read either. Good Kill.
That was one. That was one that I remember. The Host is one of those ones that people were like, "That's going to do." Like everyone was just sure it was going to do Twilight numbers, and then it kind of bombed.
Yeah.
I don't know if it does. I don't know if it has that like romance angle that Twilight had or anything. It must not, right? Like, although it's listed as a romantic film, but
I mean, it probably just does.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not tell you. I have not seen that movie. I haven't seen Good Kill Anon or his upcoming movie I Object either. So maybe he's kind of lost it a little bit. He's lost the sauce.
Yeah.
But I do think he's an interesting writer.
Yeah. I mean, these are Gattaca, Truman Show, and you know what? I've never seen Lord of War, but I've heard good things about it. Have you seen Lord of War?
Yeah, but that was a while back too. That was, I think, a movie that kind of brought me back to reality regarding Nicolas Cage. Cause, like,
in terms of him being a good actor, like,
yeah, because he was just like in 2005, especially, like that's really like his meme presence is kind of being born. You know, it's that's a Nicolas Cage movie. Like, it's not going to be very good.
Wicker Man is the next year. That's what breaks him, right? Like that. The Wicker Man remake is the one where people are like, he's a fucking joke, you know?
Yeah.
And which is unfair. That movie sucks, but it's not his fault.
Yeah, like whatever. Also, it gave you like the greatest image ever, or the greatest GIF ever of Nicolas Cage in a bear costume punching someone in the face. Like, I'm sorry, that's just an inherently funny image.
He punches a woman.
Oh, that's right. Never mind.
Well, that's less funny. That's the weird. No, it is funny. That's the weird. It's a movie made by Neil LaBute, who's like deeply sexist in his films.
Oh no! It's not funny anymore. I forgot.
Because part of what that remake does that is so fucking baffling about it is that like it's the evil cult society is like this matriarchal society, like it's, which, you know, like there are elements of that in the original Wicker Man, but not in the way the other movie does it, right? Like the men, if I remember correctly, like most of the men on the island in the remake are like they're like almost like zombies. Like they're just kind of like muscles, like that don't really do anything, you know, like they don't have any autonomy. And I don't know what Neil LaBute was trying to say with that, but whatever it was, he failed miserably. Or maybe it worked entirely what he was doing, and it just turns out he sucks. But, oh God, Neil LaBute's next movie was Lakeview Terrace. Remember Lakeview Terrace?
I saw it. I was like, we don't have time to unpack all that. And then you go, remember Lakeview Terrace?
I'm just saying. Well, yeah. In his first movie, he's like in the company of men. Yeah, Neil LaBute sucks. Fuck that guy. Fuck Neil LaBute.
Maybe he just makes problematic shit. Maybe he's like a decent guy. I don't know.
Sure.
I genuinely don't know. There's someone like listening to this and be like, "Oh, you have no idea." Then I don't have any idea.
Yeah, his movies are very aggressive in their awfulness, you know. But hey,
yeah. Andrew Niccol, his stuff that doesn't work, like In Time for me. Like
or
he has
a story credit on the Terminal, which is arguably Spielberg's worst movie. But
Happy Amblin reference.
Yeah, we'll figure out what to do with Spielberg stuff.
Yeah. Well, we actually already talked about Spielberg's worst movie.
Where did we stop? I don't even remember.
I'll have to check again, but his worst movie's Hook. I know people like that movie. You're wrong.
We didn't get to Hook.
We had to have done Hook.
No, because we didn't do Always. Because we would have done Always.
Oh, why did I think we did Hook?
Because I think we were getting close to it. We kept talking about like how much we wanted to talk about Hook. Because it's like we're kind of in a similar boat. Although I don't hate Hook. Like Hook has
here's
moments.
the thing. Here, I'll give my take right now since we're just here.
Yeah, fuck it.
It's a terrible movie. Like I do think it's outright terrible. I don't hate it, and I do think you can see like the potential, not just in the filmmaking and like the production, but like there's a lot of like ideas in that movie about like growing up and like maturity and family and stuff. Like Spielberg touchstones. It's very clear how that movie got greenlit. It's bad.
But there's honestly just like there's some really good shit in Hook though. Like whereas I don't think there's anything good in The Terminal. Like what happens in The Terminal that's good?
I think Hook is more interesting than The Terminal.
Yeah.
I'll save my Terminal take for a rainy day.
Yeah. Do you like The Terminal, just tell me now. So
I'll save my Terminal take for a rainy day. I want to go back to the Truman Show because if we're talking about all this,
Terminal is such a bad movie. It is a low point for Spielberg, if you ask me. It's coming right after Catch Me If You Can, which you could argue is his best movie.
That's an arguable top 5 for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's a great fucking movie.
Next. Yeah, Catch Me If You Can is brilliant, and it kind of gets better with age too.
Yeah.
So.
And he does like Munich like relatively soon after that too.
Well, yeah, that's
unbelievably good.
The crazy 1-2 punch of War of the Worlds and Munich as being his like post 9/11 movies.
Yeah, that's like psychotically good.
yeah. And it's like, wow, Spielberg's actually being a little critical of Israel here. I wonder what he's said recently on the subject. Oh no.
We're not going to unpack all that right now.
Oh no.
Well, has he said something, or was it just like he gave a message of support to like some school or something, right?
He said something. It's that thing of like a lot of people have come out being like it's wrong to kill people, right? Like,
yeah, which like yes, I agree.
Like, I mean, it was when this all started, there was like a wave of people who just kind of reflexively went like terrorism is bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yes, we all agree with that. Like, that's not. But then a lot of those people just became very quiet as the weeks went on. Like, I honestly, I think I noticed very few people actually doubling down afterwards. Like, I think a lot of people just kind of went like, I think a lot of people just haven't really thought about that issue, and this has suddenly thrust it into the light, you know. And I'd rather people who know they are uninformed not say anything than for ill-informed people to keep talking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with just sitting back and letting other people figure out the problem. But
Truman Show was also shot by
had a chance to talk about the filmmaking of Truman Show, which is what you keep saying you want to talk about.
Yeah, it was shot by Peter Bizou. Peter Bizou. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I've not seen a single
100% what it is. I'm sure there's no mistakes.
Okay,
in what you were saying.
I've not seen a single other movie he shot except for Pink Floyd's The Wall.
So you've never seen Time Bandits?
Oh shit! Did he shoot Time Bandits? I did see Time Bandits. Okay, so I've seen two other things.
You didn't see Life of Brian?
He shot Life of Brian?
Yeah, it's like that's his earlier stuff.
Okay, no, I haven't. But no, I okay. I've never seen the full movie.
You haven't seen The Road to Wellville?
Okay, now you're making stuff up.
No, The Road to Wellville is a great movie about what's his name? John Harvey Kellogg and his creation of Kellogg cereal to get people to stop masturbating.
All right.
They made a movie out of that. They spent $25 million on it, and it somehow made $26 million, which is kind of insane.
But yes, the filmmaking. I don't know if what the full collaboration process was between Peter Bezou and Peter Weir, but this entire movie is basically shot on telephoto lenses, all the way through. And I think that's such a a documentarian style, for distance for the subjects, so they get more comfortable. They don't see you. They don't feel the pressure of the camera in their face, right? There's also here you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask. Here's a question: Is it always on telephoto lenses, but when they go to the Christoph stuff, is that different?
I'm pretty sure they're shooting on a 35s or 50s for that, which are more traditional portrait, or 35 I think is what people consider the standard field of view. Everyone says the 50s closely resembles a human eye. I don't know. Everyone sees fucking differently. I just have to rant about this now for a second. 50s is most. It's fucking. I don't know. The human eye can do anything. It can see anything if you have vision. So I don't know. I think that's bullshit. I don't buy into that at all.
We can't see everything with the human eye, Diego. There's a lot of things we very specifically cannot see.
Well, I mean, the human eye operates at whatever. The human eye can be wide. It can be narrow.
I should hook you up with a friend of mine who's he's a philosophy major. I think he's going for his PhD right now. Or at the very least, he has a master's. And he once talked to me about his belief that colors don't exist.
Oh my God! Whoa.
And it was a very fascinating conversation, but most of it went over my head.
Okay.
So,
I've never heard that take before.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now, is the take colors don't exist, or our eyes kind of that's how we process certain textures?
Well, whatever. Yeah, I if I remember correctly, I think we make colors with our mind, right?
Okay.
That it's not really a tangible thing out in the universe. It's us,
Mm-hmm.
But I could be totally. He'll probably correct me. This was 4 years ago, I think.
Okay.
We had this discussion, and it was I remember it being really interesting, and then I just didn't retain it because I didn't know what to do with any of that information. So,
but yes, okay. So 50's not. My whole thing is 50's not replicating what the human eye does. I think what people mean is that when we're looking at something, we can kind of create our own, especially if you're doing photography. Obviously, you're how do I make this a something nice to look at, a portrait, not just of someone's face, but how do I compose everything around me into what I want to focus on? I'm sorry if that's a very broad statement, but that's the only way I wrote this down. And I think 50 allows you to sort of calibrate the blocking and the composition, the art designs into something that's more, I guess, accessible. You shoot on wider angle lenses. You're almost taking in too much information. It can get very unwieldy. If the camera, if it does a right jib really fast on wide, it's gonna feel like you're moving 100 miles per hour. And if a telephoto lens glides a little bit and you're on someone's face, that's when it feels like you're moving really fast. The telephoto is trapping your subjects in the space. Wide is you can do anything. You can go anywhere with that. And so I think what I really love about the way this movie shot is, it's very obvious in hindsight. I guarantee no one else besides this group of people would consider shooting this movie this way, almost exclusively on telephoto lenses. It's just it's a very obvious choice now, but what's the best way of making Jim Carrey feel like he's trapped? I don't know, just shoot him in very boxy frames.
Well,
always
also
like at a distance from his background.
What's fun about this movie for me is that there's like an in-universe explanation for why the movie looks the way it does.
Yes.
Right? Like that we're essentially watching the Truman Show, you know? And that's what kind of makes this
Yes.
movie really fun on rewatch, because you start like putting together the logic of it all, like of where all the cameras must be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it really works. Like it works thematically, and like you're saying, how it makes him feel trapped, and it's that we're spying on him, but it also works textually as part of the narrative, which is such a cool melding that you don't always get. You so rarely get that, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like to fucking go all
it's
like
it's
Kevin
funny.
Williamson. It's like you're watching the movie about the show, making of the movie. It's like it's all meta bullshit, but
Yeah, but it's not wrong. I mean, it's kind of funny though that we just had this conversation with Babylon, where we talk about how that movie seems to draw maximum attention to the camera itself above anything it's actually filming, to arguably the detriment of that film.
yeah.
And this movie does that, the same thing, but it's for the benefit of the movie. That we
Yeah.
are constantly being made aware of the artifice of it all, right? And it makes the movie better.
Yeah, it's just oh god, like I'm on Film Grab right now. I don't know if you know that website.
No
Um,
idea. Is that like a letterbox competitor?
no. Film Grab is like an archive of screenshots from various movies
Oh
from the
yeah.
beginning
All
of
right.
film history. Not every movie because that's like impossible, but a lot of them. Um, and like just looking at it right now, just looking again. Okay, there's probably like some wide angle stuff. So like when he's like driving the car, right, and you have like the behind the speedometer view,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like okay, like that's probably like a wide angle lens because like that's you can't get that shot unless like you're like right
Well, it's
up in
crazy to
someone's
think about them.
face.
Like, yes, it was the '90s, but the idea if they did this on film in the '90s is kind of insane. Like
Yeah.
that it looks like they must have been doing crazy shit with the camera. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it must have been kind of a nightmare, but it was worth it.
Yeah. Film cinematographer, colorist, and podcaster Devin Scott, who I'm a big fan of, and I probably brought him up before. Um, but he's got some great letterbox writing on this, also talking about how it's shot, and there's one log where he talks about how he loves the way every single formal decision is not just filtered through like an ideology of what would TV look like, but specifically what would TV directed by a megalomaniac, self-serious artist struggling with limited camera angles look like. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, because these are very like artful compositions, like for the sake of the film, but you can also feel like this dude wants it to be like the most impressive work of art he's ever done in universe of the
Yeah.
film, the Ed Harris character.
Hmm.
It's like he's so caught up in like I've created something so specific. He's broken like through the
I
barriers
don't
of art.
know.
He's created like life itself. Like he is God, you know?
I don't know if this was intentional, but did you get Steve Jobs vibes from Christoph?
Now, yes. I don't
Like
know
it's
if it was either, but yes.
mhm. Like because this is before, I believe it's like right before his return to Apple, right? Like where, and that's where Steve Jobs really reinvents himself and like to the black turtleneck guy we know him as today. Well, or we did. He's dead. But another guy who tried to use alternative medicine to cure his cancer. He was afraid to have himself cut open because he thought that was bad for the human body, even though a lot of people do it. So he thought he was smarter than cancer. If you want to know what type of ego that guy had, um, that's why that movie is so fucking dumb. That fucking Jobs movie. That's what the movie should have been about, him trying to beat cancer and failing. Um, but yeah, like it does feel like not Hopper, Harris looks at Truman in the way that Jobs looked at like the closed systems of his computers that he had total control over, right?
Mhm.
That he like the sort of God complex of it all. It's fascinating. Um, I wonder
Yeah.
why, like what because this is like the first I guess this is the first Jim Carrey more serious type thing. It was almost Robin Williams. You could see Robin Williams easily doing this, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, and
he
like
might have been a little too old by then, right? Like maybe you need like early '90s, late '80s Robin Williams to pull this off, but you could totally see the role fitting him still.
yeah, and you know what? Even if he would have been a little too old, I do think he would have fucking killed it. Like, I mean, I just miss Robin Williams like in
No,
general, you know.
yeah,
Um, so maybe I'm like imagining something that wouldn't have even worked out, but like,
yeah.
fuck, man,
Well,
he would have crushed it.
We had it on our bracket, the Patch Adams movie he did, which is a
Yeah.
bad movie. And one of the many problems that movie has is that he's too old to be Patch Adams. Like he had to have been in his like 40s by the time the movie was made. And he's playing like a college student. Like it's a disaster. But yeah, so like he might have been too old. Jim Carrey maybe this is like the right moment. And he really and like you see like Carrey even in his serious movies you see the Jim Carrey of it all like rise to the surface every now and then, right?
Oh yeah.
Where he's
I
doing
mean,
his
I
little
think
bits.
one of my favorite
Uh,
all-time Jim Carrey moments is when Laura Linney's talking to no one except the camera, really. Like she's supposed to be talking to Jim Carrey, and he
yeah.
clocks like because I mean the movie starts with him like kind of already on the trail of like something's fucking weird here, right? So this moment where Laura Linney's like basically like get me out of here, and they cut back to him and he just looks around and he's like, who the hell are you talking to?
Yeah, it's
Like
I've
it's
used
so
many
funny.
I've used many different coffee makers. This one's the best. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Um, the one I was thinking about is when when he's sitting in his car and Laura Linney comes to check on him, and he does the thing where he like predicts who's gonna come,
Yeah.
and he does the like he does the kind of Jim Carrey yell that he does in Ace Ventura, and then he's like, they just go round and round and round and round and around and round. Like that is a very Carrey-ism.
Yeah.
Um, but you know what? He's never been nominated for an Oscar, has he?
I don't think he has.
He's made that shot a few times, and he's never gotten the nomination. And I'm not even necessarily saying that's wrong, like because he's a lot of his like more serious choices just haven't panned out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was probably the moment it should have happened, right?
Yeah.
And it just didn't. And I don't think since then he's had a role. But also, like, what do you give him? At a certain point, he becomes too expensive, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
post Bruce Almighty, it's like he's too expensive to get for a movie. If you a real role, like you after that, you give him a bad script because he'll make it better. Because that's what happened with Bruce Almighty, which was not a strong script that then made made like $500 million at the box office or something.
That's fucking crazy. Then that's the movie where he takes back the power from Kristoff and he becomes God.
Yeah, remember Morgan Freeman was God in that?
Oh yeah, everyone loved that.
Yeah. That's one of those movies that I saw
going on.
Nothing at all. But that's one of those movies that I saw as a kid and like was like, this is the funniest movie ever made. Like comedy has been reinvented. And then like I put it on a few years ago as an adult and I'm like, oh, this movie sucks.
Yeah, I'm good not revisiting that.
Yeah, it's not. There's the good moment is him when he has like the breakdown at Niagara Falls. That's a pretty funny moment. But back to you, fuckers. Yeah, it's just such a weird movie where it's like, if God said yes to everyone would win the lottery, and then they would only make $3 and then riot. Like it's such a weird lesson in that movie.
Yeah. Like, where it's like, I guess you're not supposed to do anything about people suffering. Like,
yeah,
what? This is why I left religion. Like, yeah.
Well,
I'm not even joking.
It's that thing of like, there is no, if God has any, the only way God can be real, right? The only way that it would make sense is if God made the universe and then was like, okay, you do you, and then left. Like, he does not have any influence over our day-to-day lives. Like, he'll pick us up when it's over, right? Like, he's driving the car around the neighborhood. He'll be back when it's all over, but he's got nothing to do with what happens while we're here. Because other than that, he's letting some really fucked up stuff happen. So, Because that's a weird one. Because remember, like, part of that movie is like he starts hearing all the prayers, right? And it's like
Yeah.
overwhelming him. And then God's like, well, you have to answer these prayers or it's going to drive you insane. Like, 'cause everyone's praying to you because you're God now. And he tries answering all of them. And he, like, even with God powers, which doesn't make any sense if God's supposed to be omnipotent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like he can't answer all of them. So then he tries saying yes, which leads to everyone, which leads to disaster. And then at the end of it, he just unplugs the computer that he was using to answer prayers. As if, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, like that doesn't, it didn't solve the problem. Like, they introduced this narrative problem and then just like, no.
But then it's also like, if God's trying to show Jim Carrey what it's like to be God, like walk a mile in my shoes type of shit, then you also do need that omnipotence. And because he's still ultimately processing reality as a human being, and like, let's say God's omnipotent, all-knowing, like time isn't really relevant with a creature like that, right? It still is for Jim Carrey in that movie. So it's like you're playing a rigged game. It's not the same thing. He should be able to process all that stuff without losing his mind, because it's still from the human perspective. So see, fuck that movie. It didn't even think its metaphors through.
Yeah, it doesn't. It does. Like, look, if it was just a comedy that was mainly about, like, okay, what if you were suddenly had God powers, right? Which is what the movie is. Like, that's all it's trying to be.
Yeah. I mean, we're overthinking it a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's worth talking about. And in relation to the Truman Show,
it tries to have its cake and eat it too, with being like, and here's the moral, and it's like, no. And then they do Evan Almighty, which is the most expensive comedy ever made and a huge financial disaster.
That's so awesome.
Did you see Evan Almighty in theaters?
No, I didn't, because I was like,
I did.
It looks bad. I think you've actually brought this up before, but please do it again.
No, I had a friend like drag me to it. Like, his family. That was a family. All right. Don't. This doesn't leave this room because I'm about to talk some shit. That was a family
podcast that goes public.
Yes. Don't let this out there. This was a family who, both of his parents worked for Lockheed Martin, the weapons manufacturers, and were doing fairly well for themselves. And then they would take us out to the movies, and they didn't want to pay the extra money for concessions, so they would like sneak in a like big liter of soda, and you would have to have like a little cup, and they would fill your cup, and you would drink it. And that was your concession when you went out with them to the movies. They didn't want to pay the extra few bucks for an actual soda. So they took me to see the Polar Express too. Remember that?
Okay.
They didn't have a good track record with the movies they picked.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense that they didn't.
They did take me to see Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, though, which, like, not a great movie, but an interesting one. So
no, I like that. I got a soft spot for that one.
Yeah, same. Like, I can't really sit here and be like, great movie, but like, it was an interesting movie. So
yeah, we should do like a niche blockbuster series where it's like, yeah, these didn't really work, but also I like them. So who cares?
Yeah, we should come up with a series. Let me just pitch this to you, Diego, where it's like movies that were like designed to be blockbusters, but they didn't really work. Like you could say they failed in a way. We should do a series like that and find a reason to do Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe we should.
I think we should call it Blockbusters That Didn't Work.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. Let me whip up the PNG.
All right, that's our new series, everyone.
Yep. You heard it here first, folks.
I want to give a shout out to Truman's best friend in the movie, which is like quietly a brilliant performance.
Yeah.
Like, here's something I did not notice. I read this only like 3 days ago when I was looking at the Wikipedia page, where I guess the actor talked about that, like, his character has a lot of pain and guilt for manipulating Truman. He says he had a serious drug addiction for many years, been in and out of rehab, and I know of this. There are deleted scenes where like he expresses like unhappiness over how Truman is being treated, including a scene where he sees Truman escaping and doesn't say anything, but was cut from the movie. I did not know that going in, but I would believe it because it's all already there on the screen. Like, they didn't need those scenes. You can see it in his performance, right? The like weird mix of guilt that he has about everything. And there's so many like subtle references to like how complicated that guy's life might be because he was Truman's best friend since childhood, which means he's a child actor, right? Like that he was as taken advantage of the system as Truman was. And there's that story they tell where uh, he said, like, remember when we were kids and you wanted to play North Pole all night? And he was like, you were sick for a month afterwards. And like, you can kind of read between the lines as what might have happened there in terms of like the kid, like maybe tried to get off the show and shit like that, which is so dark. There's just that devastating moment. Arguably like for me, maybe the most devastating moment in the movie when he's like, Truman, if this thing you're thinking is true, that this is a TV show, and everyone's in on it, I would have to be in on it too, right? Like, and it's oddly his way of being like, I am in on it, right? Like it's his way of confessing. And then he does that when he brings his father back, and Carrie does perform this very well, where he has to perform being happy that his father has returned, but also perform that is the moment when he realizes his life is a complete lie, like that really is the moment.
That
That's a
does bring
great
me to like one
scene.
of my favorite moments where like, where it's sort of representative of like his friendship is like there is something there that's authentic, but even though the circumstances of it are not, it's like which leads me to like the element of like the sky
Yeah,
being there, like it is shining like light on them and like warmth, but it isn't like real. So like that's why you get like that great shot of like that matte painting when Truman reaches the what he sees as the horizon.
yeah.
It's not really like it doesn't exist. It inhibits factors of reality, but it is not an actual sky. It can't it instead of like being this endless thing, it stops. There are limitations to it.
Yeah, yeah. That is an amazing shot when he hits the wall. Like that kind of blew my mind as a kid. Well, you watch it now and you still can't really tell when it's about to happen. Like you watch it closely and you kind of like you see the shadow for like half a second before it happens. It looks better than the fucking tank they used in Jaws the Revenge. Like, like Jaws the Revenge, you can see the water breaking against the wall and hear it like they do a good job hiding it.
Yeah, I will
Um,
say when you're watching like those shitty VHS rips of Jaws 4 or like even on like TNT or whatever, like it fooled me until you get to like 4K and HD. Now it looks like
yeah,
shit.
that's probably true for me too, but like it is one where like this you can watch this movie in HD and it still looks pretty good. So like it's all about how you film it. Um, can I give a bit of a weird shout out to an actress named Una Damon, South Korean actress. She is Christoph's assistant in the movie. Um, she pops up in like a few movies and is always memorable, even though she has maybe like one scene and two lines. Um, she's one of the like reporters in Deep Impact, and she is the lab tour guide in Spider-Man. And she's one of those people where she's very memorable as an actress, even though she was never really given anything to work with. And I just find it. I just wanted to give her a weird shout out because she hasn't worked since 2007, and I'm sad to see that because she's like actually she has an odd presence for someone who's just like her goal in Spider-Man is just to be like this is what spider powers are, and she's oddly memorable.
Yeah,
Like
that is strange. I wonder what happened to her.
it's no,
It
it's
might
Hollywood
just be
racism,
okay.
but it's like there's no other answer. Because she like it's weird. She has that thing that like some actors have, where like you almost feel like the actors can be in the scene, but you gravitate towards her for some reason. Like some people have that sort of natural on-camera charisma, and so to me, it's like it can only be racism that stopped her from having a bigger career, right? I mean, she hasn't worked in over 15 years at this point, which is just a bummer. So I just want to get because it was one of those people like, yeah, I recognized her. Like I was like, oh, that's the woman from Deep Impact. That's the woman from the Truman Show. Like she's memorable. We shouldn't forget also how funny this movie is. Like we're talking about it very seriously, but there's a lot of great humor in it. I love the travel agency scene, where there's the poster that just like lists all the horrible things that can happen on a plane, like terrorism and shit like that. And then there's the one with the lightning striking the plane. It said it could happen to you. And then the extra really funny touch is the travel agent coming out, and she still has her makeup stuff on, the stuff around her shirt collar from when she was in the makeup chair, because it's clear they had to like kind of rush her to get her out there, because why would they have a regular travel agent working? So she comes out, she slides it, she catches it, and she like quickly takes it off and like throws it to the side. Like it's a really really funny note. The fact that there's a nuclear plant just outside of the fucking the town that like melts down and they can't go past when they're trying to leave.
Yeah,
But
it does bring to mind like that
mhm.
the element with Natasha McElhone character Sylvia, who is the one who rather meeting her is the one like true honest to God like experience, like real life experience, that he has like an authentic human connection, and that makes it like all the more vital in contrast with basically every other element of this movie so manufactured around Truman's life. Like you have to believe that he would fall in love, or they would fall in love just through like the glances alone. Like it's such like a small character and role, but it's also so essential. Like it's not small in terms of its weight, but rather just like its limited screen time and the amount of time it has to like express to the audience like no, this is an authentic vital element that's going to determine the rest of Truman's life, because it's going to drive him for authenticity, whether or not he realizes everything else is authentic or not.
Well, you'd have to believe that their brief interaction would be enough to kind of put this like, splinter in his mind's eye of just like he never could forget her, right? That he's always trying to. I do like the thing of like it's that thing with him where he on the surface he's living like this picturesque life, right? That like he white picket fence, all this stuff, a weird mix of like modern and like 50s America, and then but then he's got this weird like we don't know what it is at first when he's tearing the pictures out of magazines. And it is like a hint at like the weirder inner lives that we all have, right? Like, and as we slowly piece together what it really is, like we understand like why he has this inner obsession with someone. Essentially, obsession is maybe the wrong word, but like a drive to find her again.
Yeah, and so as we only kind of come back to her like when she's on the outside world at this point, right? We don't really see, because they didn't have too much of an interaction inside the actual like living space. There wasn't that much there, but like in the outside world, it's much more like we're cutting to other perspectives, how people are viewing Truman, and she's still viewing Truman, but it's a different sort of viewing as opposed to the way the audience out there in the real world is viewing him.
The weirdo in the bathtub watching him.
Yeah. And that's where the movie gets like really interesting to me, because it's not just the way we're watching Truman, it's how they're watching Truman, and how like they need to be everyone in the dome needs to be like so on all the time.
Well, this is where I feel like it's come back around. I said that it feels like we really are entering an era right now. This seems to be a Gen Z thing, of that Gen Z really likes the idea of watching other people do things rather than doing it themselves, right? Like Gen Z doesn't go to the movies as much. They watch other people watch movies, like react culture is such a big thing right now. And it's where I feel like I said, where this movie's kind of oddly come back around to where like we would just watch someone like Truman all the time, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's just, that's how you end up getting like a get ready with me like TikToks and YouTube
What's
videos.
What's a get ready with me?
Oh, it's like you just watch someone get ready. Like, they go about the day like, get ready with me, we're gonna go to the mall today. We're gonna get ready with me, we're gonna go to the movies. Get ready with me, we're gonna cut whatever, like cook stuff.
Huh. Did not know that existed.
Oh yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Mixed feelings about it, like most things on TikTok.
Do you This isn't like a judgmental thing. Do you watch any of those, or do you just know people who watch them?
No, I just know people who watch them. Like maybe something will come across my feed, but
I am this. I'm not judging because I've admitted to watching VTubers, but no, I am oddly fascinated with it, even if I don't really like it. Like React culture, like that people like that just film themselves watching movies, and how that like it's become a successful thing online. Or even we talked about H Bomber Guy earlier, but he mentioned in that video of people who react to his videos on like Twitch, so it's just someone else watching his video, like, and it's kind of fascinating that has become a thing, that we want to see other people react to things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like where else are these people supposed to like get that sort of interaction sometimes?
Well, yeah, that's what it is that like community is dead. Like we don't have communities now, so we have to have these ones where, oh, my friend online who doesn't know I exist reacting to something I like, it's replaced, having a friend over and showing them your favorite movie or something, right? Like, it's a little sad.
Well, it's just more difficult. Like, you can't even go to the mall anymore. Like, I mean, our generation kind of stopped going to the mall in general.
It's very difficult now.
Where do you even go?
Yeah, it's just changed. Everything's just changed, Like we're the old fogies already, like of just like owning things with disc players in them. I mean, isn't like Microsoft kind of like quietly announcing that like they're not going to have any more disc drives on their Xboxes and shit like that?
Did they? Oh, fuck that. So, that's fucking.
It's a bit of a bummer. But,
God, and that's just another way for like these fucking corporations to like control their media output. Like they sell it to you, but not really sell it to you because they're always going to hold the keys to it. So if they decide they don't want it in your digital library anymore, they can just take it back.
Well, here's
and it's like, another aspect of that is just like a streaming, as we're discovering, is like not profitable.
Yeah.
And that includes like licensing games on digital platforms.
Yeah, it's like that's true. And like they're kind of be like, well, it will be profitable in the future, and it never is. And my worry is that by the time they realize this was a mistake, they will have killed the actual delivery mechanism that like gives us these products, right? Like that, like, I mean, Best Buy is no longer going to carry movies, right? Like they just announced that a few weeks ago, a few months ago at this point, that no more physical media there. GameStop's on its last legs. AMC Theaters is probably like gonna run out of money at some point, like because they're publicly traded companies. Like nothing that's here's this word. Nothing that's profitable is actually built to be publicly traded, like because they're not making infinite money. Like they just make money. Like, and everyone wants that infinite growth thing that just won't happen. And when they chase the infinite growth, they end up eating themselves. Like, so, like, I think we're at this weird point where all these studios are realizing, oh, the streaming thing isn't working out the way we wanted it to. But now they can't do anything because we've kind of killed the theatrical going experience, right? Like, it's hard to encourage younger people to go back.
Yeah, and like at some point, it's not even like on the younger people, the audiences. I mean, it is to go support stuff in theaters, but. Like, I think part of the drive is like you're gonna need like stuff that needs to be seen in the theater, spectacle, not just spectacle, but like something you can't get delivered through like a streaming system. Something that you need to go see on the big screen.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that I think you need a healthy ecosystem of theaters in order to support putting movies out at a certain rate, and I feel like that is what is being killed, right? That the people want to go to the movies, but it's not financially acceptable anymore. Like it's too expensive and the quality's not very good. And everyone would rather pivot to streaming, even though it doesn't make money. Like, so, it's something where like, I wonder like when AMC is finally like, we're filing for bankruptcy or whatever the fuck, like what will happen, I think I told you, I mentioned like a few years ago, I think the shift is going to be, we're not going to see these big theaters with like 20 screens anymore. It's going to shift back to like theaters of like 5 screens at most, maybe, right? Like, yeah, and there'll be more independent operations, but that will, we're in a country that doesn't really build anything anymore. So that would be a hard thing to suddenly start building movie theaters again.
Yeah.
But
back to like the streaming thing, happens. I think that's partly why, like, I think the ending of this, not just like the fact of like the constant viewing of Truman is like so like resonant nowadays, but I think the ending in particular is like so moving and powerful, and like you don't see Truman and Sylvia reconnect. Like it's not for us anymore. It's for them. So that's why it's shot differently. You know, like when she leaves, we see her go out the door and we see him go out his door. Like,
yeah, we don't see it. I mean, the last line of the movie is a joke on us, really. Like Truman escapes the film, and then the guys are like, "What else is on?"
it's so fucking like cynical and like nihilistic.
It's cynical, but also like kind of endearing. Like it's an odd like it's not.
Yeah,
like
you know, maybe
hateful,
not nihilistic.
Like, it's just kind of like, yeah, this is what would happen. Like, yeah, what else is on?
I mean, hey, just look at how often like people are doom scrolling and shit.
I mean, yeah, we can't judge. Like, although I'll be honest, I've gotten much better at doom scrolling.
Oh, have you? Okay,
like,
good.
I just mute every word related to things that like I know are bad. Like,
no, you're better off.
And sometimes
you're
no
doing it
right. To some of you people, sometimes I want to be like, you don't need to share that 20 times. You're just making yourself feel worse. Like, I get what you think you're doing, but you're just making yourself feel worse. But hey, that's the Truman Show.
Yep, that's the Truman Show. Sorry, there are way smarter people that have talked about this movie at length already, ad nauseum.
Well, what else could, like, we're not the ones who are really to break it down, you know? I think this is one of those, I think a lot of people have broken this movie down. I will say this, here's something I can't really get into, but I know someone who has had a history of mental illness and had kind of the Truman Show symptom. It's actually a documented thing where people start to think their life is a TV show. It's been a documented thing. And it's odd how accurately this movie captures that. Like, if you want to look at this movie as Truman is truly going insane, it's odd how accurate it is based on my limited experience. It's kind of crazy when you watch it. Like, this movie works on like so many different levels that like we could be here like 4 hours longer than we've already recorded. So yeah. But well, this might be our last Peter Weir one that we do.
We could always do like Picnic and Hanging Rock. We did a Master and Commander episode back in the day, but it's like it was just we didn't talk about the movie. It was like unreleasable.
Yeah, we were in a that was a weird
it was like at the height of COVID
state of mind. Maybe we'll do a commentary for it.
Oh yeah. That'd be good.
We could always do Dead Poets Society because that didn't win Oscars. Like it was nominated but didn't win.
Oh, we could talk about Robin Williams finally.
Or the insane movie Fearless. Have you ever seen Fearless?
I have not. What about? I was gonna say Witness, but
Witness is a good movie. Yeah, that's the problem is that it made money and that like our show is about failure.
Yeah, it made a fuck ton of money though.
That's one of my dad's favorite movies. I think it's a very good dad movie. I think it's like Dad's one. Although, hey, look, it was nominated for Best Picture and didn't win. So,
there you go. We could do a workaround.
So, so maybe that's a future one.
Yeah. Anyways, next week on the show, we'll be talking about Fargo. Yeah, Coen Brothers, baby. And I'll be honest.
Yeah.
You probably know how we feel about it already.
We should mention that Truman Show narrowly beat Interstellar in the poll.
I know, I'm so fucking... Look, I'm not pissed because Truman Show is like one of my favorite movies, but...
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We were talking about, when we were developing the poll, we were trying to find a good way to do this in terms of who we put up against each other. I hit on the idea of we should do it based on view numbers on Letterboxd, like how many times the movie has been logged. Not like the rating in terms of quality, but how many times they have been logged. The only one we didn't do that with was Babylon versus Saltburn, which I just felt like were two appropriate movies to go against each other. And so Interstellar had way more logs than The Truman Show, but they were the closest together, so they got paired together. And we were joking that whatever goes up against Interstellar is just going to lose. Like, Interstellar is just going to wipe the floor. And then that was the only poll that ended up being, like, super close. Like, that was the only one. I really don't know what happened there. Like...
Yeah, I don't know. I assumed Interstellar had, like stronger shooters.
hate Interstellar, because I felt like Interstellar, it had kind of turned where people were like, no, Interstellar's great. Like, and maybe there
No,
still is a group of
I
haters
think
out there for it. I do have friends who, like, not film Twitter people who are like, they hate Interstellar. Like, yeah, they're like, Interstellar's a piece of shit. Like, that.
really, see, that's so strange to me because like Interstellar, people in the real world seem to respond to it much more than I did when I first saw it. I didn't. Well, I'll save that.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people, film people didn't especially
Well,
like
it's
it at
weird.
first. It felt like,
Interstellar seems
anyways.
to play well with dads. You know, if it's a very popular dad film. But like, I have friends who are like smart people, I guess you would say, not in film, like they're into other things, and they all seem to hate Interstellar. Yeah, and I don't know, that's a movie that I don't totally know why people respond to it the way they do in both a positive and negative way. So
Maybe there's something to talk about there in a future retrospective.
maybe.
I don't know. But until then, Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm an EmperorTM1 at twitter.com, which isn't called Twitter anymore, but whatever. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be there. I'm also on Blue Sky, which just opened up to everyone, basically. I post there a little less, but I'm trying to post there more. Um, you know, uh, the internet's in a weird state of flux right now. Um, I keep threatening to stream again, but I'll say this, in my just watching one VTuber, I've started to realize I do not like the culture of video game streaming. That there's something odd about it that makes me upset that when I watch someone play video games for too long, because I don't know the person and they're a complete stranger and I just watch them play a video game.
No, that's super normal, actually.
Like sometimes you get like you're not even trying, but like a parasocial thing happens and it makes you feel terrible. I don't know if you've been there.
No comment.
Can I tell you a really quick story about a parasocial thing that like was one of the worst things that ever happened to me?
No. Links down below. We have been professionally unprofessional.